What's up, everybody? Welcome to another late night edition of the David Carson Show. Always tends to happen on Fridays. Like I keep saying the last few days, I've been under the weather. I overworked myself a couple days ago, and then, yeah. I wouldn't say I'm, sick. When I wake up, I don't feel very well. But then, when I get to this point of the day, I'm pretty good, after being up for a while. But when I first get up, I'm like, ugh. Feel good. And then I ran out of allergy pills a couple days ago, and I haven't had a chance to go get some more. So, yep, that is always fun. But the show must go on, and even though it's late, we'll still record. Why not? What's up, everybody? Got the late night crowd, so this should be fun. But what do we have to cover today? Some interesting stuff. Proud Boys leader sentenced to 17 years in prison over January 6th. He shook a police barricade, and he gets 17 years in prison, even though Antifa, they do that all the time and don't even get charged. But let's move on. Shark Tank investor says market will crash soon. AOC lashes out at Biden over border crisis. Even his own party's turning on him. Even liberal media is now fact-checking Biden. Joe Rogan and Oliver Anthony roast Rainn Wilson and Libs for criticizing Richmond, north of Richmond. Biden laughs off requests for bank records as he faces impeachment threat. Former UFC champion slams Hawaiian politicians. Elon Musk says U.S. school turned his daughter into a full-blown communist. Biden body double conspiracy erupts as plastic surgeon says Biden may be addicted to plastic surgery. Biden proposes airports around the United States to house migrants. This guy is nuts. Oh, yeah, now we're going to use the airports to house migrants instead of just building the wall that he's now serving. He's now selling the materials for pennies on the dollar instead of just constructing it, even though the contractors and the materials are already paid for. No. Let's not do that. Let's just waste the material or sell off the materials, basically wasting them, and then, yep. Yeah, who needs the wall? We got airports to house the migrants. Unbelievable. But let's start off with the first story. Proud Boys leader sentenced to 17 years in prison over January 6. Here's a clip.
Here we go. From the Daily Mail, former Proud Boys leader Joe Biggs sobs during sentencing as he's given 17 years in prison over January 6 after begging court not to separate him from his daughter and cancer-stricken mom.
That
Biggs,
is awful.
Ethan Nordine, Zachary Rail, and Enrique Tarrio were all found guilty of the charges after they broke into the Capitol following the 2020 election. Full stop. Fake news. Enrique Tarrio is actually not there. So, his charges, I don't believe anything to do with him. He was arrested beforehand and barred from the city. Tarrio was not there. So you gotta correct that one, Daily Mail. The judge ruled Biggs was qualified for a terrorism sentencing enhancement. Biggs' sentence is one of the harshest handed out in Capitol riot cases, only behind the 18-year sentence for Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes. Here's where it gets interesting. So this is Joe Biggs. Many of you may know him. He worked for InfoWars. He said, "I know that I have to be punished, and I understand." But he added, "Please give me the chance, I beg you, to take my daughter to school and pick her up. I wanted to see what would happen. My curiosity got the best of me. I am not a terrorist. I'm one of the nicest people in the world." Judge Timothy Kelly wasn't having it, as he said Americans are the envy of the world and U.S. elections must be respected, telling Biggs, "You did play a role in riling up the crowd. If you don't like how an election is being conducted, you can speak out, call, write, or meet with election officials. You can engage in peaceful protest, file a lawsuit." That right there is why I think we absolutely have to talk about this story, because that judge lied. Or he's really dumb. Maybe both.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe both.
If you peacefully protest, like the people who were walking around the other side of the building, they're going to arrest you anyway.
Yep.
If you say sit in front of an abortion clinic,
the Oath Keepers guy didn't have any guns, and they sentenced him to 18 years. He didn't even go into the Capitol. He was on the grounds, I think, but wasn't even next to the building necessarily. And they still gave him 18 years.
Going to try to give you 11 years in prison because you peacefully protested. How about this? If you speak out on Twitter, they'll claim it's part of a criminal conspiracy. If you make a phone call, part of a criminal conspiracy. Write or meet with election officials, not only Are they charging Donald Trump, his staff, and legal team for doing these things? They've even criminally charged the election officials that they met with.
Yeah.
So this is insanity. 17 years. Why? What did he do? He tore a fence down. Should he have done it? No.
That's
Should
all he
have
did, though.
been punished or prosecuted or whatever? Yeah. 2.5 years, maybe a little harsh for tearing down a fence.
Yeah.
You take a look at what happened.
Yeah, Antifa does it all the time. They go and break barricades and they don't even get charged. I'm not saying they should be getting charged, but considering not getting charged at all versus 17 years in prison for tearing down a fence. Like, yeah, you know, give him something. Yeah, probation probably. But 17 years, insanity. And again, the left doesn't get charged with anything.
Happened with the far left extremists, BLM or otherwise, nothing.
Yeah,
so this is particularly extreme. We have some commentary here. Matt Walsh says, a man just got 17 years in prison for tearing down a fence on January 6th. Meanwhile, a guy responsible for burning an entire police station to the ground during the BLM riots got only 4 years. No sane person thinks this is justice. But we do not live in a sane world. It is an insane world. And of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene has come out saying Proud Boys organizer Joseph Biggs sentenced to 17 years by U.S. District Judge Timothy Kelly. How many violent BLM rioters are serving 17 years? Especially after rotting in jail for the past 2 years, J6ers need to be pardoned. They've been persecuted enough. I have, this is the kind of thing that gives me a sinking feeling because what I did following the story is I went to look at a few forums to see what the sentiment was among Trump supporters and fans of Joe Biggs. And, it's getting scary out there because the response from these people is terrifyingly, as I've predicted, the view that the government is illegitimate, law enforcement doesn't exist, and the perception among those who support Donald Trump is increasingly becoming, and for many already is, that these law enforcement officers are no different than a guy in a clown costume. That if a person walks up to you wearing a set of clothes, it doesn't mean anything. They're now saying that this is Soviet-style communist revolution. This is what was happening in the Spanish Civil War. And if this escalates, and likely will, because the far left will not stop, they're going insane. I don't know if they're a zombie horde setting fire to everything around them, just screeching at the top of their lungs, or it's intentional. But you want to know who's at fault for the continued strife in this country? It's not Joe Biggs. It's this judge. 17 years, that's going to freak people out and not the way they think. Now, here's what I want to add before we just jump into the full conversation. The reason why they gave him 17 years, it has nothing to do with who Joe Biggs is or what he did. It's because of the mob phenomenon. And they want everyone to know that they will throw the book at you and the hammer if you engage in any kind of mob mentality phenomenon. That is to say, often what we see in these riots with the far left, you have a mob of people walking around clueless. One guy will walk up to a door at a store and jiggle the handle and then run away. Another guy will run up within a split second as he's running away and grab the handle and pull the door open. Someone else will see the door being opened and they'll peek their head in. Someone behind him will shove him in. Then people see people going in the building and they all start rushing the building. There was no immediate action where an individual thought to themselves, we should storm this building. And that's what happens with Joe Biggs. He's just there. He has no idea what's going on. Despite the fact that they say that there's communications by the Proud Boys. Yeah, they were saying like, what are we doing? What's going on? He's there. People start taking action and he goes along with it. So they're basically setting an example. We don't care who you are. We don't care what you've done. If you are in the mob, you're going down. And that's why the people who did not get violent and had no idea what was happening on the other side of the building are being criminally charged. The courts have literally told them, because you were part of a mob, you are going to prison.
With Joe Biggs, one of those tweets, is the first tweet you pulled up, said that he's getting, Matt Walsh, 17 years for tearing down a fence. But Kellen, you mentioned before the show, he was also screaming a barricade. He was also yelling for people to go in and to do stuff.
No, I just said they were proud. Like there's videos of him saying, we just did it. Yeah, we were just in there. Like, heck yeah, they were happy.
They were taking selfies inside the Capitol and things like that.
And the video in the court, in the trial, was someone walking up to him being like, we just got in the Capitol. What do you think? And he goes, awesome.
Okay, so he's celebrating.
Yeah. I mean, there's also video of Zachary Real, who's also sentenced today. He's getting 15 years, and he was also convicted of seditious conspiracy during this 3-month trial, of him saying, don't go into the Capitol. Don't go in there. And they're like, irrelevant to us. You have to go in because later you threw something at a police officer. I mean, there are things where I can agree, like, it was.
Don't throw stuff at cops.
Don't throw stuff at cops. It was out
I
of hand.
agree,
On the
but
other hand,
15
both of these men
years.
have young children, and you're locking them up to prove your political point.
Yeah.
And that's pretty sick.
The metaphor, I think, is like if a bully attacks another kid in school, everyone's like, oh God, you want the bully to lose. So the kid somehow fights back and he beats the bully and he knocks the bully down. Then everyone's like, yay. But if the kid starts stomping on the bully's face and smashing his skull, people will run over and grab the kid and pull him off. The government has gone too far by hitting these guys with 17 years. They're now smashing the skull of the guy. It's unnecessary.
A bit brutal, but I agree.
Extremely brutal what they're doing. And it's
I just
going to
mean, like,
cause
the
massive
analogies.
it's going to cause sentiment that people are going to start to hate the victim now.
This is right. This is even the Krasensteins are like, we think this is a little bit harsh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
Well, and Kelly
They
is
finally
the
hit their
second
line.
judge that has said something to the effect of like, because of you, we no longer have stable elections, and
Because
so
of him. It's this judge's fault. I hope everybody you understand that, to throw a point to Ian, who often talks about pardoning your enemies. Now, I don't completely agree with pardoning the worst war criminals of our generation, but there is something to be said of the Chinese finger trap problem in that the harder you pull, the worse you make it. And this is the judge being, the judge may as well have looked into the camera for NBC News and CNN and said that his goal is to destroy this country, because the sentiment among those who support Trump is that they are coming for you, they are coming for your families, they are using violence, they are like the sentiment is
abusing
not,
the law.
well, justice was served. It's
Not at
done the
all.
exact opposite. This is radicalizing people because the sentence is psychotic.
They want to radicalize people.
I was thinking the sentencing disparity that Matt Walsh brought up. Could that be the difference between prosecution and a federal with a federal judge versus like the really relaxed persecution or prosecution that's happening for different states and different cities?
Perhaps, but to the moral question, it doesn't really matter all that much.
Right.
Right. Obviously, we know that the feds can be more harsh. They tend to win all of their cases, the ones they choose. But it's just when you look at these on the surface of what they are, obviously we can say, bro, if you're going to get into a fight with feds, you're going to lose, hands down. But 17 years for knocking down a barrier?
And
It was one of those like little metal barriers.
yeah. And
So
Not good. You shouldn't do it.
Well,
and I think you'd go to jail for it. But
Yeah.
you'd think someone would get like 6-7 months in jail for something like that.
And I feel like I have
Probably
to
maybe
point
a
not
out,
even
couple
that,
years
2
of
months.
probation.
I have to point out that the Justice
2
Department
years
asked for
probation,
33
maybe.
years in prison, and they asked for 27 for Zachary Reels. I mean, this is
33 years.
basically sort of half of what they wanted, and it's still, in my opinion, way too much for what happened.
Right. And the one thing I wanted to bring up is you remember the case where the New York City lawyers during the 2020 protests, they were caught with the Molotov cocktails. They got pretty good sentencing from it. So they weren't given lenient sentencing. Not saying that this isn't harsh, but I think the feds are making an example quite clearly. And it's unjustified. And like you said, it's radicalizing people as well. So they're
I
not.
think they want to
making an
radicalize
example
people.
while at the same time radicalizing people, which could possibly create the same circumstance that we ended up before. And I don't think they care much about
That's
that.
their goal.
Like they're
That's their
thinking
goal.
that
I think
step
they
ahead.
care.
But I think for us who are just analyzing things, that seems like a plausible thing that could happen. And God forbid, like one of these indictments go through with Trump. That, to be honest with you, I'm not a lawyer, but just looking at the different indictments, they don't make much sense to me.
I
They don't make
think
sense to
that
anybody.
Biggs' lawyer should file an appeal on the grounds that the judge advocated for criminal activity, that the judge attempted to incite the defendant and his associates and those listening to commit crimes. And incitement to commit a crime is a crime in and of itself. So I believe this judge should be impeached. He should be removed and criminally charged for the crime of advocating and inciting others to engage in election interference and seditious conspiracy. Because he outright said, if you don't like how the election is being conducted, speak out, call, write, or meet with election officials. Well, as we know, based on what happened in Georgia and the federal charges, that's illegal. So I think we're going to have to ask the Republicans to criminally charge this judge.
This Trump appointee judge. I'm going to throw
I
that
don't
one
care
out
who
there.
appointed him.
I think that's what, when I went to cover opening statements, that was what was interesting about sitting with the families, was they were saying like, Kelly is a Trump appointee. He's been more flexible about some things, because a lot of them go into this DC courthouse being like, I am in a hostile city where the jury is already biased against our case, and I have a Democrat-appointed judge. They feel doomed from the beginning. And this only affirms this feeling from people who support these people saying, you know, the government is out to get us no matter what. I mean, 300 people are in jail because of January 6th. Over 1,000 have been charged federally. It just seems like I can't imagine being a business owner in a city where there were significant rioting during the summer of 2020 and thinking like, wow, I wish someone cared about what happened to me as much as DC cares about what happens to itself. I mean, they experienced so much, there was so much loss there, and yet all of the focus is on these people and one specific day. It seems disproportionate to me.
This is not, it is incredible naivety to think that a 17-year sentence will set an example for anybody. The only example this judge has set is that there is a biased neo-lib, neocon uniparty machine that will destroy your life unjustly if you speak out against them in any way. And of course, that's not me defending what Joe Biggs did in tearing down a barricade.
Yeah, no, and throwing stuff at
going
police.
into the Capitol or whatever.
Yeah.
He should not have done that.
Or that was
I
the other
imagine
guy, I guess.
Riot charge would be a couple of months or something, maybe followed by probation or whatever. But when you look at the crimes committed by the far left, it is fairly obvious. They're being paid money. When the far leftists rioted in DC and burned and set fire to buildings and garbage in the street and a limousine smashing windows, the city paid them millions of dollars. Paid them after they got arrested. When it's the right at the Capitol, I mean, look, and you've also had the left storm into the Senate and, you know, buildings and bang on the Supreme Court doors and go into the Capitol, all of that. Not a peep, nobody cares. So all that they're doing.
Oh, those trans people in all these trans laws for minors that are going into effect, the left would just go in there and be screaming stuff. They can't even conduct the vote. Nothing happens to them. That's what I always say. If Trump wins in 2024, what do you think the left is going to do then? And that's just going to backfire. It's just the Capitol. I've said before, they'll burn the Capitol to the ground, don't you think? Now, I hope that doesn't happen, obviously. Hopefully the Capitol Police are good enough to fend those guys off. But considering Joe Biden's appointing all these people right now, the guy's probably incompetent and it's just going to go crazy. But the plus to that, I guess, would be that, you know, the people would see the left is who they are finally, like straight up. But Capitol, yeah, they'll damage it. Then the right, the people on the right, they went in there. They didn't. The only people that I ever saw damaging stuff, except for the fences, like the actual, like the one guy hitting the window of the Capitol. That guy was most likely Antifa. I don't even think that guy ever got charged. According to the Epic Times video I saw like a year ago, they did a documentary on it. I can't remember what it was called, but they were saying that guy never even got charged for it, and he's the one breaking the window. And then another person went over there and stopped him. He's like, "Stop it! No, stop!" And he tried to do it again, and the guy like chased him off. So, yeah, what do you imagine if there are 100,000 people all on the left? The one woman's just hugging police as they're going out of the Capitol to like stop a certain thing. She's by the door and there's like a ton of people by the door and she hugs every single one of them individually. Do you think the left is going to do that? 100,000 leftists? Oh, it's going to get wild. What was it in May of 2020? They burned down a guard post by the White House. They tried to burn down the White House when Trump was still elected. I think it was May of 2020. Yeah, this stuff is wild. So, yeah, they'll go way, way, way more insane. It's pretty scary. But I guess we'll see what happens. That's if Trump wins, I'm saying, on January 6th of, 2025. It'll be wild.
Example that you have oppressors willing to use force against you to take you from your children. And like, if you look at the forums, is what people are saying, the radicalization is terrifying.
And Joe Biden can do this, and then he's going to say, we're not tough on crime, or we are tough on crime. We're talking about San Francisco and New York. We locked all these guys up from J6.
What they're going to say...
We protect democracy.
Right. They're going to say,
that's what we do.
We're battling domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
Never mind what happens to the cities outside of D.C. Never mind the people who lost their businesses in 2020. We don't care about what happens to them. We care about what happens to us as the head of the government.
This has got to be like they're anticipating riots if they take Trump off the ballot and they want to intimidate people into not rioting or be like, hey, make an example of Joe Biggs. Don't even think about it.
I think they want turmoil. I've said in other videos, when Trump gets indicted, I've seen leftists on Twitter like, "Hey, aren't you mad? Your guy's going to jail. Why don't you go storm the Capitol again?" That's what they want this to happen. This is their goal. They want to rile people up. They want him to act a fool. That's why, like, all these people that are like mad about this, be mad about it. Get Trump back in there, and he'll get pardoned. It's awful. Another year and a half of him being in there for tearing down a fence when it's already been years. That's awful. But if you go act violent, they're just going to use it against you. They're going to use it to win the election. No, don't do that. Be calm and be patient. It's awful. Don't get me wrong. All this stuff that's happening to these people, these J6ers, completely horrendous. They're getting way too much. Some of them have been in solitary confinement for years for walking into the Capitol when the cops let them in. So it's awful, but be patient. And then if Trump gets in there, he'll probably pardon almost all these guys. But if you're violent, don't be violent. Don't go crazy, because this is exactly what they want. They're setting it up. They wanted J6 to happen. I know that for a fact. Because now they're saying Trump is going to be off the ballot because he participated in an insurrection, right? But they must have set this up before. They wanted to call it an insurrection, so the Capitol Police let him in, and then, the rest is history. Now this is what we're going through, so don't do that again. Even the Capitol Police chief said he thinks it was a setup. So it was most likely a setup. The Capitol Police chief is saying that. Like, what? He's in command of all this. And he was like, oh, no, it's a setup. So be careful. And you can see it now with Georgia. Look at it. Or, what is it? Florida, New Hampshire, now Arizona. They're saying, well, the 14th Amendment says, it's a 14th Amendment says insurrection. No, if you participate in it, this was their plan all along. Before January 6th. They're like, hey, let's go get these people mad. It's going to go push everyone into our direction. But I think really, like, this type of stuff, 17 years, this has got to be starting to backfire on them, though. Because even normal people must be like, wow, 17 years for moving a barricade? Again, maybe a couple years probation, maybe a few months in prison. Yeah, give him something, because you can't be doing that type of stuff. It makes sense. But they were asking for 33 years for moving a barricade? Like, come on. Like, even like leftists, I'm like, they never get charged for anything for storming barricades and stuff. But do I think they should go to jail for 17 years? Absolutely not. That is insane. What is it called where America bans it on cruel and unusual punishment? That is cruel and unusual punishment for sure.
17 years, if you even think about it, kind of thing. But like, you got to understand the damage. It's not, people aren't machines. They don't respond A to B like a computer program. And if you just can't twist this, man. There's a reason that we have
Ian, they want this to happen.
System built like it's built so that people in the center don't take control.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast.
Very interesting. Yeah, I just kind of said I didn't know it was going to end so soon. But yeah, I kind of just summed it all up already just right there. Don't be violent. 17 years is way too much. The left, they just let them do whatever they want. But then if you go and do the same exact thing, they have the power and they don't care. Republicans are nicer than Democrats. Even people in the center, if they're leftists, I guess a Trump appointee judge, but I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah, they want you to freak out. They want people to be violent. They want the right to go insane. This is the whole goal. Like Ian Crossland right there, the long-haired guy at the end, he was like, no, if you do this, you're gonna radicalize people. They want that. He doesn't get it. That's what they want to happen. That's why they let him into the Capitol on January 6th, because they wanted all the news coverage, them storm the Capitol. We're gonna make that the narrative. Everyone's gonna hear it. Joe Rogan said that had this narrative, was repeated this. So, how January 6th can't happen. January 6th can't happen. Which, I mean, I agree. But it wouldn't have happened if Antifa wouldn't have been there and if they didn't let him in there. If what Ray Epps, the Fed, was telling people what to do and orchestrating this. And I think he might be getting charged now. I heard something about that. But one leftist congressman, I don't know his name, he was defending him. He's like, what? He's your voter. And you're going after him? Why don't you just leave the guy alone? This is why you don't get any votes anymore on the Republican side, because you're just going after your own guy. How come that guy's not saying that about every other person, Jay Sixer? Why is he not saying that? So, yeah, it was all inside job. It was all orchestrated. So that's what I'm saying. This is orchestrated too. They're going to give these people crazy sentences. They're going to torture them to make more people do the same thing. Then they're going to do it to you. It's basically going to become concentration camps. You know, maybe that's a little exaggerated, but you see my point. They're going to go get everyone that gets more radicalized because they're doing this crazy stuff. Then you get violent. I saw something today. 14 people are getting charged nationwide for threatening election workers. They're going to find you and they're going to throw you in jail. And then the media is going to write about you and they're going to think everyone on the right is crazy just because 14 people did it. They said 1,000, but then only 1% qualified for crimes. But do I even agree? Do I even think that's true? The 1,000? I don't, probably not. But the other people are pleading guilty. They probably did it. But I understand why people get angry. The election, all the anomalies, and they didn't even investigate it. Mike Pence just agreed with it. He didn't even put it back to the states for a 1-week investigation so they can recertify and do audits. No. He didn't do that at all. So then it just made everything crazy, and this is exactly what they wanted. Mike Pence is establishment. So you got to blame Trump for some of this, though. Why did he? If he wouldn't have picked Mike Pence, I mean, I guess he didn't know. How could you know? I didn't think he realized how much everyone was going to be against him and how establishment everything is. I think he thought certain people, he probably went and met with Mike before the election, before he told him he was going to be VP. And Mike's like, oh, no, I agree with you on all of this. So and he's like, okay, great. Awesome. It's not like the business world, like that Trump's used to, and he was in it for so long in the business world. He comes into politics, and he's just like, oh, everyone's just going to agree with me. I'm the president. I'm the leader. No, it's not that simple. And he learned that. I hope next time, like I've said in other videos, it's interesting because now he knows after 4 years who is loyal to him. Because anyone like Mike Pence, Brian Kemp, Ron DeSantis, all these people that he thought were loyal are not loyal. And now we can see. Now he knows Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. He knows Rudy Giuliani. He's loyal to him. These people he knows are loyal. So I'm hoping this is who he puts in his cabinet. This is who he elevates when he gets reelected, because maybe he can actually clean out the deep state if he does this. Right? Get Ramaswamy in there. He wants to go get him as VP. He also said he would have just certified the election and just used that leverage to get election laws passed. But what I said in the video the other day, it's like, well, okay, well, what if the left gained control in 2022 and just reversed it? So no, they should have just sent it back to the states that they had questions. They could have audited over the week, and then if they would have recertified, yeah, I mean, it's going to be political turmoil if you don't have the peaceful transfer of power. So yeah, definitely if the next time if they recertify, but if the states didn't recertify, and then they're like, oh no, actually Trump won. It could have happened in 1960. Nixon. Kennedy lost Hawaii. They sent alternate electorates. Nixon's like, okay, he was the vice president at the time. He's like, okay, let's hear it. They did a revote. Kennedy won. So it's not like it's unprecedented. You know, it happened in 1960, and John F. Kennedy, iconic president. That if they wouldn't have done that, Nixon and Kennedy, which is ironic because Nixon was before all this crazy stuff with Hillary Clinton and everything, and all the spying, and now the government apparatus. Nixon was known, the Watergate guy. He's the guy who spies. He's evil. But what did he do? He was the opposite party. He was a vice president for a Republican, and then still he was like, okay, well, let's see what Hawaii has to say. There's some anomalies. Let's see what happens. And then he did it, and then Kennedy won, and Nixon accepted it. Why didn't Pence do that? And when Pence is in his own party, it's so weird. And then Ramaswamy recently, he was like, no, I would have done the same thing, except I would have used the leverage to get a vote passed through. And I was like, why would you do that then? So you're not even actually challenging it based on any grounds. You're just like, okay, they won't pass the law I want for voter ID, so I'm not going to certify it because of that. That's a bad look. I think that was bad on Ramaswamy. But for all the other stuff, if it won't matter, I guess, next time. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it would if Trump goes. And then I think Ramaswamy would probably just. How interesting would this be, right? So 2028, Ramaswamy wins presidency after Trump wins in 2024. And then the election thing. So now he's just in charge of his own election. It's very interesting. It really is. It's weird how that's the law, considering vice presidents run all the time. So, yeah, that's actually a very fascinating narrative. But didn't that happen with Al Gore though in 2000? And there was anomalies. Very interesting. But yeah, well, I guess we'll see what happens with all this. But like I said, people should stay calm. Don't be violent. This stuff is insane. They should impeach these judges. Give pushback, but not too much, because you like the Georgia thing. But will they actually get convicted in Georgia? Probably not. But I guess we'll see how it all plays out. But one more time, don't be violent. Stay calm. This stuff's nuts. Go, instead of putting your energy into being violent, go and just make sure people vote overwhelmingly for Trump. Remember the case details for the Georgia case. They got rid of attorney-client privilege, and they're going and trying to prosecute people for speaking out on Twitter. Like Tim was just saying, they speaking out on Twitter, and then the lawyers that gave him legal advice, that filed stuff, and then the election officials they met with, they're prosecuting them too. So when you're talking to people, even if they don't like Trump, just like look at what they're doing and the precedent that this will set. And like I was saying in the video yesterday, if they start getting mad and upset, just let them simmer, change the subject, and then later you could bring it up in a week or two and be like, oh, did you look into that again? If they're just someone like no, and they're as mad, probably don't even talk politics with them. But I'm just saying, like, you could slowly change people's mind. Brandon Struck said, hey, I was a far leftist and I hated Trump until one of my friends sent me a video and I begrudgingly watched it. And then he's like, oh, if this isn't true. I think it was the thing, there's good people on both sides. And then he condemns other people, the bad people. I've got to watch what I say on YouTube. Yeah, he condemns them, and he's like, oh, what did the media lie to me about? And he said he was in like a tizzy, like, oh my God, like freaking out for like a week straight, watching all these videos, like, oh my God, they lied to me for so long. So if you can just prove that and just stay calm, don't fight with people, and just be like, here's the videos, here's the evidence, look at the case, look at the tape. I've covered this stuff a lot in my videos. Hopefully they can stick with it. But if they can watch one of my videos for 10, 15 minutes, some of these videos that I do, can Trump beat the deep state and stuff like that? Some of these videos I do, if they could stick with it, they might get it really informed, and they could be like, oh, okay, now go watch other people. I show a lot of people on my podcast. I love this format because it's like having a guest, even though there's no guest, because now people can see like Tim Pool, they can see the quartering, they can see a lot of different sources and see like, oh, okay, it's not me saying it. It's like, here's all these other people saying it. And then they can go dig into these people, like, okay, Timcast, go dig into Timcast. And then they can go watch him if they like him more, and then, be more informed. And if we do that, Trump can get reelected. He'll pardon these people. He'll lock up all this stuff, set a new precedent. And yeah, that would be awesome. So that's the goal we should be doing. That's the goal we should be aiming for. Don't get violent. Don't start fighting the government. Use the system how we have it and put your energy into that. But with that, let's move on to the next story. Shark Tank investor says market will crash soon. Here's a clip.
This past week, I saw that The Big Short was trending on Netflix. The Big Short, of course, is a film about the 2008 financial crisis. It's an amazing movie. It needs a bigger
I still
punch
somehow have not seen
when
it.
they break down the banks who are collapsing, the lenders.
I think for me, I know so much about it that like watching it, I should still watch it, but I already know all the details. So it's just like, I could go watch a movie about it, but I've seen it. But Tim's recommending it. I don't have Netflix though. Maybe I'll resubscribe. I don't know. It's pretty expensive nowadays, but we'll see. Maybe I'll check it out.
Were collapsing. But for the most part, the movie is absolutely fantastic with an all-star cast, including Christian Bale, Brad Pitt, Stephen Carell, and who else is in it? I don't know. There's a whole... Ryan Gosling's in it. Yeah, he's in Barbie, too. Awesome movie. The movie talks about Michael Burry, as well as a few other investors, who took the unprecedented move of trying to short the U.S. housing market. Everyone thought they were crazy. Are you nuts? Everybody pays their mortgage. If you're right, the economy collapses. How long ago was this?
economy
Maybe
was
like
gonna
17
crash anyways.
years ago. Maybe it was 16 years ago.
Yeah, I think 16.
I knew someone who told me that they
assuming Q has
had
seen it.
their family
he's
had given
talking
them a
about him.
trust, or
talking about
that,
another
whatever it
story,
was. I don't know. They had a bunch of money invested in their name by their parents, and I said, "Wouldn't you rather have the money to do stuff with?" I mean, I get it. It's it's tens of thousands of dollars, but what if the market collapses? And what I was told was, "Ha ha ha! If this stock goes down, the country implodes. So what do I care?" And I thought that was really interesting. The mentality of this was, man, and this might have been before. No, I think it was after the financial crisis. But it was interesting to me that the idea was, what do I care? If the investment goes up, I make money. And if it goes down, everyone's suffering anyway, so whatever. And that's basically the gist of what was going on. Nobody believed the market would crash because they were like, that means that millions of people would be homeless. And it would
like
never
the US
happened before
dollar
in
right
history.
now.
And sure enough,
It can't
did.
happen.
Let's get to the news. Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary warns that soaring interest rates will bring mayhem to the economy before Christmas. Really? The investor said that America is headed towards a rebalance because of high inflation and interest rates. The Fed's interest rate is currently 5.5%, but could rise further as Chair Jay Powell tries to cool inflation.
Yeah, they're
A
saying
high
it's gonna
interest rate pushes
get
up the
raised
cost
more.
of debt, which threatens business and households with mortgages. That's right. We could be heading towards the same thing. Which brings me to the big story from the past couple of weeks. Michael Burry, of famed The Big Short movie fame, he made a big bet. In that movie, and it's a movie, it's a dramatization. They even point out some points in the movie, it's really funny. Like there's two characters who find a prospectus, like a pamphlet explaining a plan for shorting the housing market. And they're like, whoa, look at this. Then the one guy looks up, actually, this didn't happen. We heard about it from a friend of a friend, so this is a fabrication. But anyway, it's a great movie. In the movie, Michael Burry says, I want to short the housing market. His investors are like, you're nuts, stop, don't do it. And then he says, you can't even short the housing market. How would you do it? He goes, I'm going to get a bank to create the proposal, and then I'm going to buy it from them. It's actually really simple. I'm not a financial guy, but the general idea is with put options, with shorting a stock. Again, not an expert. My general understanding is you've got three parties. One guy owns a stock. One guy wants to buy a stock. And then there's you. What you do is, let me borrow the stock from you, person A. You then sell it to person B at its current value of $50. You get all that money, but you owe person A that stock. Now,
Isn't that basically what a broker does, though? It's basically a stockbroker, right?
if the stock goes down, you can buy it back, but keep the profit and then give the stock back to the person you borrowed it from. It's an interesting way to bet against a stock. With the credit default swaps, it was basically just, hey, I'm going to pay you every month for insurance. And if the stock, the bond collapses, then I get paid out. That's basically the general idea. Well, Michael Burry is now making a $1.6 billion bet against the U.S. stock market.
Wow.
And they're mocking him and they're laughing at him, even while
He did it
all the
last
data
time.
points are coming out.
Yeah, and he did it
That's what I
last
find
time
fascinating.
in 2008.
In the movie The Big Short, there's a part of the film where all these guys who bought these credit default swaps are watching defaults escalate, skyrocket. Mortgages are collapsing. And they're like, certainly, these bonds must become worthless. They go to the banks and the banks are like, no, everything's fine. We're going to keep valuing your bond very high. And they're like, how? It was fraud. Apparently what the banks were doing, they knew the bonds were collapsing. The subprime mortgage loans were worthless and people were abandoning properties. So instead of publicly announcing, they secretly started offloading these securities to other banks to minimize their exposure, knowing the collapse was coming. Evil. And then it happened. In the meantime, Michael Burry and others who bought these swaps were facing losses. They were paying premiums despite them knowing what was going on. Finbold writes, here's how much Michael Burry is down on his $1.6 billion bet against the stock market. Now, this is different. With put options, it's more so when you have to, when they come due or get called or whatever. Again, not an expert on this stuff. But you can hold on to these options for a long time and not realize any losses or gains. So, here's what they say. 15 years after his famed bet against the mortgage market led to substantial gains, legendary investor Michael Burry has once again set his sights on a major financial maneuver. This time he has taken a big short position against the stock market by purchasing an impressive 40,000 put options against put option contracts tied to the SPDR S&P 500 ETF Trust and Invesco QQQ Trust. The disclosed data from earlier this month showcased a combined nominal value of $1.6 billion for these contracts. However, it seems that for now, Burry's short position is at a heavy loss. Notably, widely followed stock trader known as the Gurgavin on Twitter revealed on August 27th that Burry is down 42% on his short bet, assuming that the investor is still holding the positions. It is important to note that while the combined notional value of the two positions was a whopping $1.6 billion, Burry spent only a minor portion of that figure to build his new big short. According to Gurgavin's estimates, the fund manager likely only spent around $26.5 million to build his short position. In particular, he invested $18 million on 20,000 SPY put options and about $8.5 million on 20,000 QQQ puts. There's a possibility that Burry built the two positions as hedges aimed at softening the blow to his investment firm Scion Asset Management if the stock market declines and its long positions lose value. On the other hand, the puts could also indicate that Burry is feeling bearish about the two flagship index funds, which are significantly impacted by large cap stocks such as Tesla and Nvidia. Meanwhile, it should be emphasized that it remains unclear whether Burry is still holding the two contracts, given that there has been no update on his holding data since June 30th. Perhaps he sold them. Or perhaps, doesn't matter. Next year, anybody paying attention to the political turmoil might suspect that for political reasons, stocks will collapse.
Yep.
General market downturn.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Like 2008 election year, the Great Depression, I believe, was an election year. Wasn't it 28? I think 1928. I can't remember. But yeah, I've seen this data before. Like when generally when the economy the stock market and the economy take a super dive. Yeah, it's generally in election years, 2000, right, or the year before. 1999, 2000. No, it's 2000, right? The dot-com bubble crash, an election year. Yeah, it's interesting how that generally happens. So this year is the year before the election year, and next year is the election year. So yeah, probably if it doesn't crash at this time, it'll crash in 28. I mean, the debt's so insane; it has to crash eventually, and they keep printing more and more money. So I thought was crazy this year with the whole debt ceiling fiasco. They're just like, okay, no, we'll just raise it by another $4 trillion. No, it'll never collapse. It'll never collapse. Especially with the interest going up. Now we have to pay out this interest. Man, if hyperinflation comes due, it already seems like it's happening, right? Because the inflation, it keeps going, the interest keeps going up, and inflation keeps going up. That's not what's supposed to happen according to Keynesian economics, right? You go and raise that, and then the inflation drops, and then you're okay. But if the inflation keeps going up, and if there's like hyperinflation, then what do? You raise the interest, but then all of the debt comes due. But then again, America can print all the money that they need, but then the dollar goes down even more, and that's the cycle people predict. Or cycle, like the event that people predict is going to happen.
Wonder. I can only say this. If Michael Burry is correct, Donald Trump likely wins in a landslide. And by landslide, let me clarify for all you wingnuts. I mean, that figuratively, I don't know what landslide actually means. I'll say Donald Trump wins decisely. If the economy takes a major hit, Trump comes out.
Even if the economy collapses under Joe Biden, they'll just rig it. His job reports are all nonsense. I was on Threads randomly earlier. I think about posting my stuff on there, but I'm like, oh, it's also left wing. They're going to hate me. But he's like, top-down economics doesn't work, but the jobs report shows that Obamanomics does. Okay. That guy must be making a good amount of money off of something that he had before. Because normal people, my roommate works in the service industry, downtown Austin. He has two jobs, and they were like, okay, July's, because it's Austin, not a lot of tourism in the summer, especially it's been so hot. July is going to be the worst month, and then it starts picking it back up in August, and then September and October, it's amazing, right? But July was way better than August this year. because my roommate works there. You could just tell the money. And it's just like the economy is just that bad that people that have worked in this industry for years and years and years, they've seen the economy even through COVID and everything. They've seen all of this pre-COVID. And now this year they're like, okay, no, it's July's the worst month. And then August was worse, quite a bit worse. So maybe 30% worse than July. So, and they thought July's going to be the worst. So you can just go see how the economy works with these real world stuff and look at inflation, look at the prices of everything, right? You could just see it, but then people are just like, oh no, the jobs report is good. It's like, okay, yeah, right. They fudge those numbers. I've heard about this for a long time. What they do is they go and the jobs may be going up, but it's like people will get 2 jobs and they count those as the same, and they count part-time. Sometimes people lose their full-time job and get 2 part-time jobs. Obama used to do this all the time before Trump. So I've known about this type of tactic for a long time. I didn't dive into the jobs reports because I honestly just don't believe them, so I just don't care. But they've used this tactic for a long time. And if I had to bet, it's not going to be helping the economy. And a lot of these jobs, too, which I've seen a tactic of, is old people. They'll be coming out of retirement and getting jobs. And they're like, oh, no, look at how great it is. But it's like because all their money got lost, they have to go out of retirement, and that's good for the economy? No, that's awful. That's terrible for the economy. All this inflation is awful for the economy. It's terrible. So, but these people on the left, they're like, oh no, it's great. But if I would have bet if the market collapses, yeah, they'll probably even end up going to Trump because there's no hiding it. A lot of these people, though, like on Threads. I mean, anyone that's still active on Threads is probably just someone that just doesn't want to go to Twitter, X, whatever they're calling it. They're just like, no, X is good for conservatives. Screw them. It's crazy when I go on Twitter. It's like a mix of conservatives and leftists. Even True Social is. People would be surprised by that. But if you go look at Trump's posts, a lot of the leftists are on there just for whatever reason talking trash about Trump. So even that, but Threads, just all of them are leftists. So if you really want to go see the side of the leftists and what they think, go on Threads. It's fascinating. Because you could just go see every leftist of what their ideas are and what they think about like all these situations. Because they'll post about the Trump indictment, about the Biden's jobs. They'll go and post about all this stuff. So if you want to know what leftists think and what their perspective is, go check that out. But yeah, so I wonder. So if the market crashes, I'll be on Threads checking out what the leftists think.
And the incumbent loses. If he's right about this market bet, then we're going to see Trump 2024 win. The economy takes a hit in
most
election
likely.
year, and that is apocalyptic.
Yep, for the president.
For the party currently in power. Donald Trump comes out and then says, remember 2019? We had excellent gas prices, very low. Some say the best. $1.40 for gas. Now, you can blame the global lockdowns for that, to be completely honest. But gas was still around $2 something on average. And then Biden took over, and now it's around $4. I don't know about where it's at by you, but it's around $4 by me.
Shouldn't be surprised.
And we're in a more rural area. Typically, gas is a little bit cheaper here. That's already bad enough because gas prices track alongside political elections. I got to say, there are fears about all of this because even Kevin O'Leary is saying, there's going to be a rebalancing this year. So perhaps Michael Burry is correct.
Yeah, this year,
and he can realize massive gains before Christmas.
And also generally, I was talking earlier about how they usually markets crash usually election year or the year before. It's like almost always in the fall too. It's very fascinating. I don't know why a holiday season. It's not trying. I don't know why. It's fast. You can go back to the Great Depression and look at this stuff. It's very interesting.
What does that mean for all of you? I have no idea. I'm not a financial guy. I couldn't tell you what to do. I don't even know what I should do.
Buy gold.
Everyone's got some idea.
People are like, oh, crazy. You're going to buy gold. Who's going to want gold? But people used to use it. And if everyone uses it, gold and probably Bitcoin. I used to be way more bullish on Bitcoin, but, some of the flaws of it have come out the last few years, and it's not really, everyone thinks it's anonymous. It's not. If they have your wallet ID, if they see your ID, you can just go look at every transaction you sent to any other ID. So if they know all your IDs, it's right there in the open. But yeah, crypto would probably be great. Gold and silver. A lot of people say like water and ammo. I would agree with that too. Anything that you can keep for a very long time and resell, and there's a lot of it. Who knows? Maybe ammo would become the new currency. I highly doubt it. I think it'll be just go back to being gold and silver, right? Or a cryptocurrency. But yeah, that's what I would. Holding dollars is insane, especially with inflation. How bad inflation is right now. It's crazy to get any. My one friend, he didn't want us. He works for Tesla here in Austin. He's like a financial guy there. He was like, I didn't want to be saving all my money. I wanted to build equity. So even with high interest, he went and bought a house. And I was like, yeah, that's probably a better idea than just holding money. Even with his interest is so crazy. I was like, wait a minute. How is it so expensive? If you're paying that much per month, shouldn't you be paying that off in 10 years instead of 30? He's like, well, that interest. I was like, it's that much. Wow. That's insane. So that's what I'd get, equity or gold and silver. There's no interest on that. So, and I haven't looked in a while, but gold generally tracks with inflation. So it's just going to stay up.
Some plan.
You would think.
But I'd be willing to bet the guy who made, what did he make? Like $500 million. That's the number they gave in the movie, $489 million. No, I'm sorry. He made like 1.3 something billion, I think.
Yeah, I was about to say.
The value was around 1.45 billion. He bet 1.3 billion, and then he came out with 2.69 billion or something like that.
He wants to even do bigger this time.
And if he is, maybe talk to a financial advisor about what you should be doing right now.
Don't
I have to
talk
be worried
to a
about what this means
advisor.
for the global economy, because if the crash does happen.
What's so funny, unless you get a really like a financial advisor that's really bullish on the market, bearish on the market, like they think the market's going to go down like this guy does, that's the only way I would listen to a financial advisor. Peter Schiff, go talk to him, but he's going to tell you to go buy gold, most likely. But yeah, I mean, like, unless you go to like someone like him, Schiff Gold, I've talked to them if you're going to. I forget his financial advisor company, but yeah, go talk to Peter Schiff if you're, because he's been predicting this. He predicted the 2008 crisis, and he's been predicting this for a long time. I think Trump held it off for another 4 years. If it wasn't for Trump, I think it would have happened probably in 2020, the crash, because I've heard Peter Schiff talk about this since 2015. But then Trump got in there, helped the economy out. I think it delayed it. So, yeah, this is probably coming, but don't just talk to any financial advisor, like Tim is saying. I don't know if that was his thought, really, but don't just go to talk to, because they're just going to be like, oh, no. The stock market always recovers. If you go bet on this, if you go look at the stock, Graham Stephan, I like that guy. I watch him. He's kind of like a financial advisor guy, but I don't know if I would necessarily trust that guy, because it's unprecedented. But I mean, he's probably right. If you're going to hold on to the stock for 30 years in real term values, it probably will recover if the company doesn't go out of business. But I like gold because it's sure. It's kind of like sure-proof. Will it go up as much as stocks historically? No, but it's a safer bet. Because they a bunch of digital gold companies like Venmo might just switch to gold. PayPal might just switch to gold. People think that sounds outrageous, but to me, it doesn't at all. Because they're like, oh, everyone's just going to have an ounce of gold. No, it's going to be like Bitcoin. You have a little piece of gold. Like that's what people used to started doing in Rome, right? They started breaking off little pieces of the coin because it was silver, and they started dividing them up as inflation hit. So, yeah, you just have a little piece of gold, and it's like similar to Bitcoin, but then it's backed up by a company, and then you could go get the physical gold if you want. Gold Money, Peter Schiff's company, he tried, I don't know if it's still operational, but I used it like in 2008, and it was really cool because you can buy gold, but then when you go to, it's like a debit card, and when you want to go buy something, you can go swipe the debit card, and it auto sells your gold and gives you dollars, and then you can use the dollars. So you can actually go and invest in gold, and you're not out anything because you just go put that into gold, and it just auto sells the dollars. I think Bitcoin companies also do that. So I think that's the way to go. Stocks, stay away from them, in my opinion. But just to be clear, I think there's some legal thing. I'm not a financial advisor or anything. I don't have a license. I don't have any of this. This is just my own personal opinion. I'm not trying to give advice necessarily. I'm just saying this is what I would do.
Time when the BRICS nations are poised.
I know I'm saying you should do this, but at the same time, I guess legally I can't say that. So really, I'm just saying what I would do if I was you. So
their own currency and are trying to compete with the petrodollar. That's going to be their time to strike.
Yep. The BRICS.
It's bad news for America, my friends. But I don't know. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel.
People say that. I don't know. I mean, it just depends what happens after the dollar collapses. Like Trump was saying, if we lose the petrodollar, America's done. That is not true. The reason why America has the petrodollar and is the reserve currency is because the power, the economic might that America has. I was watching this. I think it's Real Life Lore. There's a lot of these educational channels I watch that are really cool. They'll have like long form stuff and they'll inform you about it is whatever. So 2 examples I have why America is such an epic economic powerhouse. It's because like the Mississippi, and then the oceans around like Florida and stuff, they naturally have like I forget the name of them, but they basically have like barriers behind the ocean, and it's just natural. They're like basically rivers right on the ocean, and these little pieces of land separate the ocean from these waterways. So then they could go in there through storms, and those are from like Louisiana nonstop all the way up to New York. So there's that, and then the oil. The oil is insane. America, from fracking, America is by far the most oil on the planet, by far. So there's that. So if we lose the petrodollar, it just depends. If we could go back to gold, and without the petrodollar, we couldn't afford all of these welfare programs and all of this nonsense America does in general, all this crazy spending, all this military spending. If we didn't have the petrodollar, we couldn't be doing any of that. And same thing with the Federal Reserve. If they couldn't print money, you didn't have the income tax. And a lot of people don't like, oh, what are we going to do if you have the income? Get rid of the income tax. The income tax only started in 1913, 110 years ago. And America was a huge powerhouse before that. So I think if we dropped the petrodollar, got rid of the income tax, basically just what I say is import-export tax funds the federal government, sales tax funds the state government, and then you have property tax that funds the local government. So everything will still exist like it has been. It will just have way less money, so people will just have to take care of their own stuff. But who cares? I think that's a plus. And that's going to help the economy tremendously because all this money's not going to taxes and to military things that we probably don't really even need. It's not going through all these alphabet agencies. It's actually going to producing stuff in the manufacturing hubs, and then they can afford to have manufacturing in the United States. It's weird. Like before the pandemic, people in Canada, they would like ship their lumber to China to have it build stuff, and then have it that built stuff shipped back to Canada. I heard that before. It's like, why wouldn't you just build it in Canada? Because it's cheaper because of the taxes. So get rid of the taxes because that doesn't make any sense. You have to go ship it all the way there, have them build it, and it still ends up being cheaper. Yeah, get rid of the taxes and everything, and it'd be way better. So the petrodollar being gone, everyone thinks it's going to be the end of the world. I don't think so at all. I think it would actually help the United States. Again, if the government changed with it, if they're like, okay, well, now we can't afford welfare, so the taxes get turned down, and because of all this, it gets more like, right-leaning, so to speak, where, we cut the taxes and everything. But yeah, I mean, I could see a scenario where it's just like, okay, the dollar collapses, and then they just go more ham, and like, we need more taxes. And if people actually pay them, then the United States is going to be done. But if you go and get rid of all these programs because they can't afford them, because the petrodollar isn't there anymore, so we can't just put money into oblivion, I personally think it would be a huge plus. It'll be a few years of turmoil, but then we'll go back to just being, economic powerhouse where they're not taking all of our money and everything. People talk about this. Ron Paul talks about this. Peter Schiff talks about this. In 1950s, you would go on a skiing trip to like France, and they'd be like, oh, American-made skis. This is crazy. America's all the best. Now people don't say that as much as about America. They say that about America about certain things, but it used to be everything in the 50s. Everything. America was the best at everything. Manufacturing powerhouse. Look at what Henry Ford did and everything. But then you get these income taxes that when they created them in 1913, it's only going to be the top 1% is going to pay income tax, period, ever. And then you fast forward 100 years later, and everyone is paying like 30% of their income to income tax. And what's ironic is the wealthiest people know how to write things off of their taxes. They know how to move stuff around. They know how to invest smartly. So they're actually paying the least per cap. You know, they're not paying 30% where a normal person's going to, if they don't have kids and stuff, they're 15, 30% or whatever. A wealthy person's not paying that. They're writing like everything off. So what they said in 1913 was a giant lie. But if we didn't have any of that stuff, if we just went back to the basics, all this government wouldn't be as big. We'd have way more freedom. You'd have more local stuff because property taxes, everything's kind of equal. You'd have way less people buying abroad shipping because you have import-export tax. So it'd be cheaper to harvest here, build here, and sell here because you don't have to pay the import-export tax. So the items are end up going to be cheaper instead of shipping them to China where they don't have to pay all the taxes. They don't have tariffs, right? Then China's going to be cheaper, and then nothing gets built here. But you get rid of all that, U.S. will just, I think, will become a mega, like, the United States, like I was just saying, of like the oil and everything, is already an insane powerhouse. Could you imagine if we got rid of the income tax and all these other taxes and just kept those three taxes, property, state sales tax, and then import-export tax? Man, the United States would go insane. We don't need the petrodollar. The only reason why we need the petrodollar to do all this stuff is because of all that. But yeah, I will leave it there. Let's move on to the next story. This is really funny. AOC lashes out at Biden over border crisis. Even his own party's turning on him now. Here's a clip.
Turning now to the border crisis. President Biden taking hits from all sides. I wonder why, as his own party calls out the administration's immigration policy fails.
And perhaps the greatest act of hypocrisy, AOC criticizing the Biden administration. Despite the ongoing surge, the White House claims no one's done more to secure the border than Joe Biden.
Let's wire him up to a lie detector. Greg Jenkins joins us live from D.C. with the very latest. No chance of an actual polygraph, right?
I don't think so. No. I'll get back to you on that, Steve. Rachel and Brian, good morning. And Rachel, it's a stunning claim. We'll get to that in a second. But first, we got some numbers. The number of family units crossing our southern border reportedly reaching this all-time high. You see here, according to the Washington Post, there were 177,000 border apprehensions, of which 91,000 of those crossing were part of a family group. Now, that's more than we've ever seen before. It comes as Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez pins the blame on President Biden and the federal government, telling the New York Times this, quote, immigration is arguably this administration's weakest issue. This is one area where our policy is dictated by politics, arguably more so than
even
any
she's
other.
saying this
AOC
now.
Also calling it a crisis, something that the administration...
Because you in the far left is now like on Trump's side. This is how bad it's getting for the left. Like, who's going to stay with them? Like I've said in other videos, the black community in Chicago and New York are getting sick of it because all their communities, all over the streets, all over the sidewalks, everywhere is immigrants. They're just everywhere. And they're in schools. There's schools and their gymnasiums and everything. They're using schools, gymnasiums to house all these people coming in. It's insane. And what's scary about the family unit, what they're just talking about, that's terrifying because most of those people probably aren't really part of a family. These child traffickers do this stuff all the time. They bring these kids in, and they're like, oh, it's my kid. And then they go and basically the kid is essentially sold into indentured servitude to pay off him going to come. They're basically like just slaves. They're like, okay, you have to come work for us, and those kids can't do anything. They don't know English. Who are they going to go to for help? They're new to the country. This stuff is evil. Then people thinking, oh, let's let people come in because America's so great, but then at the same time hating America and hating everything about America, hating the national anthem and the flag. But then all these people want to come here, and they think they should be able to come here, but then who's going to pay for it? I just did a video. New York is like about to spend $10 billion a year for to house all the immigrants per year, and the infrastructure is falling apart. I saw this video on YouTube recently about one of these major arteries through New York, and it's just falling apart. They can't afford to fix it, but then $10 billion a year. going to immigrants. And that's how Chicago is. Chicago is the same way. They had like a surplus, I assume, from COVID. They spent all that in a month, a few months ago, on migrants. It's insane. So what do you think these people that have lived their whole lives, they don't get handouts or anything. The infrastructure is always falling apart in these cities. And then they're like, wait, I pay all these taxes. I've lived here. I've been part of this community for my whole life. And they're like 50 or whatever. And now what happens? Immigrants come in and then they just get all the money in a month. All of it's gone. It's just like these people are just, the left is losing so bad because they actually implemented these policies and everyone could see how bad they are. They did it for votes. Biden's like, oh, no, give us more votes most likely. So this is what we're going to do. Come on, man. It's going to get us votes. Come on. So that's what he goes and does. That's what he thinks. But then it's just like Nancy Pelosi thinks the same thing. Oh, it's against Trump. People are going to like us more. Look at we're trying to help the asylum seekers. That's what they think. But then when it actually push comes to shove, people are like, okay, this is too much. We can't handle this. We should have listened to Trump. Well, and Obama said the same thing in like 2008. I think 2012, he said the same thing. Oh, no, we have to defend the border. But then Trump comes and says, build a wall. And everyone's like, oh, no, that's bad. And look at what that turns into.
Still refuses to do so despite the record-shattering numbers we keep seeing. In fact, the White House even says nobody's ever done more on the border than Joe Biden.
Yeah, for making it foul.
The president has done what he can from here, from the federal
to ruin
government,
the border,
from the White House, to put forth and manage our border in a safe and humane way to respect the dignity of every human. The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. He really has.
Really? Because the numbers are back to record levels. We're getting 7,000 a day now. And if you think about those families coming, why are all the families coming? Sources tell me it's to avoid expedited removals that mostly single adults are facing. In the fact, guys, that when a family claims asylum, only one of them has to have a positive adjudication for the entire family to be able to stay. So they're trying the strength in numbers approach. Steve, Rachel, Brian.
And those are the rules.
They're
Greg,
probably not
thank
even
you very
their
much
kids.
for the live report. Of course, the White House says that this is an actual problem, but they don't blame Joe Biden and the policy he put in place on the first day. Instead, they blame the Republicans. They say it's these political stunts where they bust the immigrants out of Texas and send them to places like New York and Washington and Philadelphia and Chicago and now Los Angeles as well. Well, you know what? Now the rest of the country...
like I've said in other videos, so they want Texas to pay for it. I'm a Texan. I live in Austin. I'm like, I'm not for this stuff. I don't want people coming in. Like, the majority of Texans don't like this stuff. The majority of people in New York City do. You can go, yeah, you can handle them. $10 billion a year. Like, what's Texas's budget? I'll have to go check. I meant to do it last night, but I don't know. I didn't end up doing it. But yeah, it's like, what is Texas's budget? Like $100 billion or something a year? Is it even that high? Is it you spend it all on immigrants? Don't worry about anything with Texans. And with Texas, everyone was talking trash about the power grid a few years ago because of the winter storm, which I mean, rightfully so. It should be better. But I blame that more on the private entities and whatever. But anyway, they want all this stuff and money to be funding the infrastructure. But then at the same time, they say that. But at the same time, no, how's all these immigrants? Don't bust them up to New York. You pay for it. It's like, we don't want it. We don't want it, though. You want it. You can pay
for what Texas has been going through for a very long time.
Exactly.
People are catching up to it.
Well, this is probably why Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is now pretending like she didn't like this open border policy because now
she's
it's
a
come
liar.
to Brooklyn. Her own constituents are really ticked off about how it's impacting services and conditions in her own district. Of course, she lives in a fancy penthouse in D.C. most of the time. But here she is. If you look at this picture, remember, she was outside of a detention center during the Trump administration crying. She brought her camera crew, of course, to capture the images. And, she was so upset about detentions. Well, there are more detentions here in more people crossing over the border. By the way, in record heat this summer.
Yeah,
God knows how many people have
that?
died along the way. We know that 80,000 children that she claimed to be crying over because they had been separated from their parents so that the Trump administration could determine if they were actually their parents indeed. 80,000 under the Biden administration have we have no idea where they are. They have no idea what's happened to them. Some of them are in child labor and slaughterhouses across our country.
How crazy.
Working in fast food restaurants illegally. We've seen those kinds of arrests, but we also know that many
And the kids don't even get the money.
Into child sex trafficking.
I'm Steve Doocy.
It's awful.
I'm Brian Kill.
Yeah, and those kids don't even get the money. They have to go work for free because they brought them here. And then the kids got paid. People paid them to bring the kids here, or they just took them to put them part of these families. It's awful. The kids probably would have been better off in their own their home country. But no, this is what AOC did. Yeah, she lied about it. Oh, this is the thing that all these leftists champion. It's not helping anybody. These people are just coming here and living on the street and can't even get jobs. So yeah, it's crazy. And they're like, oh, no, come. And they don't want to build the wall. The whole rhetoric of the whole left right now is like, no, don't build the wall. If you had the wall and they couldn't get in, they wouldn't be coming. If they know they can get in and seek asylum, they're going to bring a bunch of kids here and use them, for child labor or even worse, like that woman was just saying. It's insane. But yeah, let's move on to the next story. Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like the same exact type of thing. Biden's just losing dramatically. Even liberal media is now fact-checking Biden. Here's a clip.
I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto. Angelo Negri, a senior conductor, walked up and said, "Joey, baby," grabbed my cheek. I said, "Ange," I said, "he's okay, he's a friend." It's a true story. There were these two well-dressed men standing in a corner. The light changed.
Corn pop.
Kissed each other, and I'd never seen that before. I looked at my dad. He looked back at me and said, "It's simple. They love each other." My grandpa, who I never met, he died in the same hospital I was born in 2 weeks before I was born. I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my
this is
cat.
Maui.
Those
Biden
are
is
just
terrible.
some of President Biden's favorite personal stories that are getting fact-checked by the Washington Post, which points out that Biden has continued a tradition of embellishing his personal tales in ways that cannot be verified or are directly refuted by contemporary accounts.
Fox News contributor and columnist for The Messenger, Joe Concha, joins us now. Joe, what I really wish is that Glenn Kessler, the chief fact-checker for the Wash Post, would just say, you know what, he's just a flat-out liar.
Thank you for that. Glenn Kessler
He should.
here, Ashley, he's simply pointing out the obvious, right? And the framing here is generous because it's missing that key word. Again, Kessler says throughout his career, Biden's propensity to exaggerate or embellish tales about his life led to doubts about his truthfulness, unquote. So what word is missing here? How about lie? Or liar, or expanding it to 2 words, serial liar, lifetime liar. Let's put this into context. Did you know that the Washington Post fact-checking team during the Trump administration, led by Glenn Kessler, wrote an entire book published by Simon & Schuster called Donald Trump and His Assault on Truth, the President's Falsehoods, Misleading Claims, and Flat-Out Lies. That's the name of the book. So here's my question to Glenn Kessler. When's the book coming on Joe Biden, I wonder, and will you use that same language? Because I have a feeling the answer is never.
No,
a day late, a
not
dime
gonna
short
happen.
on this fact check, and it's just done in a way that's generous, let's put it that way, instead of calling the president for what he is his entire life, and that is a liar.
And, Joe, let me ask you about this. Biden is patting himself on the back on the second anniversary of the Afghanistan withdrawal, no mention of the 13 service members killed. And then now we're learning that he will commemorate 9/11 flying back from Vietnam with a fuel stop in Alaska. What do you make of it?
It's wild.
It shows what we see from this president as far as his age is concerned, right? Where 77% of Americans think that he shouldn't run for president again. So instead of just coming back on 9/11 or readjusting your schedule, given all the lives that were lost that day in New York, in Pennsylvania, and Washington, he'll commemorate it in Alaska, which had very little to nothing to do with 9/11. And it's amazing, by the way, that we have a president, rhetorical twerkingly, by the way, doing an end zone dance 2 years later over his handling of that chaotic, fatal withdrawal out of Afghanistan. He didn't even have the courage to do a speech on it or to speak about it in any capacity. Instead, his handlers wrote a statement for him. I mean, this is the same commander-in-chief that decided it was a good idea to allow the Taliban to handle security out of Kabul airport as far as getting Americans out. And things were so desperate there at the time, as you can see on your screen, that Afghans literally clung to the wings of planes and hoping to get out, only to fall to their own deaths. So when you look at where things went south for this president from a polling perspective, this is where it happened. 2 years ago, where suddenly you saw Joe Biden's incompetence on full display. Let's put it this way. Robert Gates, who was the defense secretary for the Obama-Biden administration, said literally that Joe Biden has been wrong about every foreign policy decision he has ever made. That's Robert Gates saying that. And obviously, Afghanistan is now at the top of that list in terms of those 13 service members that did not need to die that day 2 years ago.
You know, but Joe, my biggest question with this, at bare minimum, where is the sensitivity chip for Biden in this? These were his soldiers. How hard is it to just make aware that, hey, you know what, this happened, that my heart goes out to them and their families? I mean, what is the issue?
Sure.
What is wrong with him?
And that's the thing. In this day and age of social media, he can at least put out a video that takes about 3 minutes to put together, to honor these people, to talk to the families who lost their loved ones. Instead, it's a statement written by somebody else. And this is who this president is, right? We saw it in Maui just recently, where he talks about how a small kitchen fire, he claims, nearly killed his wife, his cat, and took his precious Corvette away from him. He tells this story to people that lost everything in a place where hundreds of people are still missing, including children, and he tries to equate it with a kitchen fire he had 20 years ago. This is who this president is. He makes it about himself, and he lies on a continuous basis, and there isn't that sensitivity, that consoler-in-chief gene that we're told that this president has, that no other president has ever had. Give me a break.
And he rages at his staff
at this point. Anyway, guys, let's end it on a happy note. You have a happy Labor Day weekend. It's going to be beautiful around here in the Northeast, and I hope that you're not working. I'm certainly not.
I will be on Monday. I think, actually, are you working Monday, Griff?
I am. I got to give a plug. I'm going to be on the couch in New York on Labor Day. Fox and Friends.
Get it.
So get up, get your Labor Day.
Yeah, interesting. I'll be working on Labor Day. My birthday's on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, as a matter of fact. I was born on Labor Day, fun fact. But anyways, let's get back to the topic at hand. Yeah, Joe Biden, he's a liar. Everyone knows he's a liar. He plagiarized stuff like in the 80s. When he was running for president, he said he wrote a speech and it was just all a lie, as usual. He lies about all these things. Oh, corn pop. And, well, he probably doesn't lie about the kids rubbing his leg hair. He's such a creeper, too. He's a creeper and he's a liar. And if the media didn't always defend him, he wouldn't be president anymore. He would be impeached with all the stuff that he did, all the Hunter Biden deals and everything. And if we have a segment coming up, they ask him about, hey, can you, what about sharing your bank accounts, Joe? He just thinks it's funny. He laughs about everything. And he kind of just makes a joke out of the Maui thing. Do you think that kitchen fire was even real? And if it was, he's like, lightning hit the pond by my house and it went into the kitchen and started a fire. I'm like, why would there be a connection to the pond to your house? So I think that was probably just a lie. But even if it wasn't, you had a kitchen fire and you're like, and it would have killed my cat and my wife. How? They can just leave the house. People in Maui, they couldn't leave. The whole island's burning. They had to jump into water. They had to jump into the ocean to save themselves. And they didn't do the sirens or anything. So a lot of people probably didn't even know what was going on. Apparently, Hawaii in general isn't really tech savvy. So it's awful. So they might not even have had smartphones to have the alert go off. And if you're not watching TV, you're out doing whatever in the yard. You don't know about this. They didn't do sirens. So it's just awful on everyone's part. And apparently it was power lines that they, under protocol, they were supposed to turn off because it was really windy. No, they didn't. They didn't do it so because the hurricane was passing by. And then they didn't do it. So the power lines broke, and then the grass, a non-native grass that you're supposed to be cutting, keep it managed. They didn't cut it. So what happened? Power lines broke, caused this whole fire. That's the official story right now. So they were trying to say climate change, climate change, climate change. Now the official story is actually, no, just more incompetence. So, and that's, Biden's not talking about that. He's just trying to say, oh, well, it's terrible, but, you know, I had something bad happen too. Yeah, the guy is evil. But with that, let's move on to the next story. This one's kind of funny. Joe Rogan and Oliver Anthony roast Rainn Wilson and liberals for criticizing Richmond north of Richmond. Here's a clip.
Oliver Anthony joined Joe Rogan on the biggest podcast in the world, the Joe Rogan Experience, and they roasted Rainn Wilson and that's his name, right? Rainn Wilson, yeah. And millionaires talking ish. I love this from the Daily Caller. Millionaires talking ish. Oliver Anthony and Joe Rogan respond to backlash from The Office star. The Office actor Rainn Wilson, known for his roles as Dwight Schrute, said Anthony's song Richmond North of Richmond should have been written about CEOs who make 400 times their average worker's salary and pay little to nothing in taxes. He said, if I were writing a song about Richmond North of Richmond, I wouldn't talk about these people on welfare. I'd sing about CEOs who make 400 times their average worker's salary, up from 50 times 30 years ago, and corporations that pay zero taxes and offshore tax shelters for billionaires. There is nothing funnier than millionaires talking ish about billionaires, Rogan said in an episode published Wednesday. There's nothing funnier than millionaires pretending that these billionaires are out of touch. Take Dwight from The Office down to West Virginia. Take him through those coal mining countries. Take him through those places in Appalachia where people have extreme poverty and pills have ravished those areas. And that's a sad thing. It's everywhere now, Anthony added. The singer said poverty is a major issue in rural and urban areas throughout the nation, making the song resonate with so many Americans.
Exactly.
I knew I needed to do this. Like I knew I needed to. I procrastinated with music a lot for a long time. I mean, I'm 31. I've been playing guitar and playing music on and off since I was a kid, Anthony said. And you know what, man? I hear you. That's why we make music. I've been playing music and writing songs since I was a little kid. I do not have anything close to Oliver Anthony. I meant to say that twice. We have not produced anything here at Timcast that comes close to anything that could even come close to what Oliver Anthony successfully pulled off with an amazing song with amazing lyrics and
Tim's songs aren't too bad. He just barely puts any out and he barely promotes them. I'd always have him at the end of my stuff. And his first song was really good. His second song was still good. His next song still good. His last one he put out, I think it was his fourth. Maybe that one was his third. He took him forever to put out. It's just not the best song, honestly.
Impeccable performance. Take a look at this. The lyrics to the song's chorus. I'm just going to say it again for you. Living in the new world with an old soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just want to have total control. Want to know what you think, want to know what you do. They don't think you know, but I know that you do because your dollar ain't ish and it's taxed to no end because of rich men north of Richmond. Yeah, that hit a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
And he's a working class guy, singing about working class issues. And I love this, them calling out millionaires, smack talking billionaires. It's fantastic. But let's get to the core of the cultural debate. The New York Times says on their high horses, too many liberals disdain Oliver Anthony. That's right.
Yeah, I'm not
Why
surprised.
wouldn't they? A working class, salt of the earth guy, blue collar guy out in Appalachia saying here's the things that I see. But the things he sees fly in the face of what the Democrats are trying to do. And it's funny because in this article, they basically point out that Republicans rushed full speed to embrace Oliver Anthony and Democrats shunned him. This is the way it goes. For whatever reason, the Trump camp people, for the most part, not all of them, play this game of, if you say anything positive about us, we will welcome you in and encourage that flame. Whereas the left says, if you don't say everything in line with what we want, we will destroy you. And so think about what that means. The left will inevitably lose. Here's what we get from Nick Kristof. He writes, what's wrong here? A self-described high school dropout living in a camper with a tarp on the roof sings a plaintive cri de coeur, is that how you pronounce that? About blue-collar workers being shafted by the wealthy. And it is right-wing Republicans who rush to embrace him, while Democrats wag their fingers and scold him for insensitivity. Huh? Have Democrats retreated so far from their working man roots that their knee-jerk impulse is to dump on a blue-collar guy who highlights folks in the street ain't got nothing to eat? Yes!
Yep.
Yes, Nick Kristof, yes!
Yes.
I grew up with a moderate left, liberals, and that's where we were, fighting for the working class, for the common folk. Now, I, as many others around me, always respected hard work, and there was a guy who was super rich, and we'd say, one day I will be there too. I will work hard and I will prove it. Many of us made it. Not everybody did. The world can be cruel and unfair. But for the most part, the idea was this. The system of capitalism should lift all ships. And if we come to the point of dramatic wealth inequality, we have a serious problem. Because lobbyists, revolving door politics, the government empowering the corporations, that is not the way the system is supposed to work. But then what happened? The Democratic Party became the party of the revolving door politics, as exemplified here with Oliver Anthony. He says, if you've been on Mars for the last couple of weeks, I'm talking, of course, about Oliver Anthony, a country singer who a month ago was unknown and now had his song Richmond, North of Richmond, soar from nowhere to the top of the Billboard Hot 100. I think he's the only person ever to debut at number 1 on the Hot 100 with no other charting history.
That's what
I've been
they
selling
say.
my soul, working all day, he laments. We know the song. It's a great song. He says, in this case, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene labeled Richmond the anthem of the forgotten Americans, and Fox News asked participants in the Republican debate to discuss it. Meanwhile, some of the left pounced on it as, oh, I love this, the left pounced. There you go, you were finally getting them. As right-wing propaganda and even as racist trash. Does the left really want to leave battered, angry workers to be defended by a GOP that periodically guts unions, targets Social Security, resists health care coverage, and opposes increases in minimum wage? Oh, boy, I got so much to rip apart. Nick Kristof, it's funny that he is the same hoity-toity leftist, liberal, of wealth and means, but at least he can recognize he doesn't want to lose, and it's a losing position to oppose working class people. Gut unions. Let's talk about what that means. I was in a union. I was in a couple. Did the union fight for us? Not in my experience. The union gave themselves cushy positions, taking money from us, and I wasn't a fan of it. However, I have also made attempts to form unions because there can be corrupt institutions across the board. Now, I can't speak for Republicans.
Go make your own company.
Get rid of union stuff, but I can say not all unions are good, and there does need to be accountability.
The problem I have with unions in general is if you go and you really hone your skills and you become really good at your job, and then the other person doesn't, but they just do enough to scrape by, they get paid the exact same amount that you do. If the company's not treating you well, go and leave and create your own company. And you might think, oh, well, I can't go make my own coal mine. Why? Because there's too many regulations. I have to go get all this approval and everything. Well, that's kind of the problem. If the government would just get out of the way, you could go create your own company and there'd be way more competition and you wouldn't need unions. Unions are a result of big government trying to keep people down, and then you can't go create your own company. So you have to stay with that company. You're forced to, because in order to go create your own, it's so expensive. It's outrageous. You can't even get funding because the tax, all the applications, the people fund you, right? So it's just like, it's dumb. So if you could just get rid of all of that, you wouldn't need unions, right?
Ones that are bad. The world is not perfect. Targets Social Security. I'm pretty sure that's a big lie. They just keep saying it over and over again as if it's true. Resists health care coverage. And what do you mean by that? They want to be private so the costs go down? That's the argument they're making. No one's making the argument that people should be denied health care outright. We're saying that you should be responsible for your own and the cost would go down without regulation.
Exactly.
Opposes increases in the minimum wage. The minimum wage, in my opinion, is the stupidest thing imaginable. And
it makes it illegal to work.
I despise this concept.
If I want to work for $3 an hour, let me.
And the only people who support it are people who don't actually, for the most part, understand basic economics and how businesses operate. It's a ridiculous idea. If you want to hire someone, you have to pay them at least this much. Well, it doesn't do anything. It really doesn't.
It makes it
I suppose it's fair to say that
work.
it's a temporary solution, ultimately leading to inflation, because a business will have to increase its costs immediately to have a minimum wage.
Then it's crazy, because if you're not worth $7 an hour or whatever your minimum wage is in your state, why you can't get a job? People don't really ever think about it like that. They're like, you think it's fair for this person to work for $3 an hour? Well, if they took the job and they're working for it, they think it's fair. And then they can use those skills that they gain from that $3 to increase their wage, and it can go up. But if you just say, okay, no, you have to pay them $7 or nothing in a business, it's like, well, they're not worth $7 an hour, so they just will never get a job. They can't, so they can never gain that experience, can't get the skills, so then they're just stuck. They're stuck at zero. People are like, you think $3 they'd be happy with that? I think they're going to be happier with that than nothing. And again, $3 will eventually go up. You gain more skills. People are going to be like, okay, I'll pay you $7 an hour. Otherwise they'll lose the person and they won't want to, and then it keeps going up from there. That's the thing with minimum wage. Does everyone just stay on minimum wage forever? Most people don't. You go start off at minimum wage, you gain skills, and then you can go use that experience and those skills to go get paid more because you're worth more. Yeah, so minimum wage just makes it illegal to work, so you can never even gain those skills. It's really messed up.
But ultimately, what you really need is a functioning economy. So long as they're mass printing money and allowing people to flood through the southern border, I can understand why they want to use a temporary Band-Aid of minimum wage to force companies to pay more, because with the massive influx of non-citizens and low-skilled labor, it's driving wages down. So they put a Band-Aid on it. Anthony, who calls himself just an idiot, just some idiot and his guitar, seemed taken aback by the assumption that he must be a right-winger. He said his song was meant to blast politicians on both sides. And, I had someone message me saying that I was wrong and the Joe Rogan podcast proves Oliver Anthony understands politics. He doesn't. But I'm not saying he has to. My point is that he's a regular dude. He's a working class guy, and that's what he saw. And now, with this article, we exemplify exactly that point. There's a reason why the left does not like Oliver Anthony, because he's right-wing. Sorry, by their definition. Sure, you can call the guy a liberal. You can talk about his politics when it pertains to abortion or healthcare or whatever. Doesn't matter. Left and right do not mean whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, as exemplified by my show. Oliver Anthony fights for the working class, complains about his money being taken from him. His dollar's not worth anything. That's the problem. The neo-libs and the neocons, the typical establishment and left, want to tax you. AOC talks about deficit spending for healthcare, which would massively drive an insane increase in inflation, devaluing of the dollar. You think your dollar's not worth anything now? Wait until you get AOC's deficit spending plan. So what he's inherently saying, as a regular person noticing problems, is that he opposes the left. So they're not going to embrace him. They need him to be racist so they can stop those ideas.
Yeah, and the left loves big government.
And convince you they're not lying.
You want to get rid of government and tax is bad.
Seriously. And you get it. We had this funny story recently where these, I won't say too much, but these leftists are attacking, Timcast, as they normally do. But it's crazy because the lies they put out are just so insanely obviously not true to anybody who even goes to our website one time. And it's just like people just fall in line and believe it. That's all they have. Join the cult. Don't defy us and believe the lies. So when Oliver Anthony comes out saying, I'm not involved in politics, says these ideas, of course they're going to attack him because he's going to wake people up. But hey, bravo on getting on Joe Rogan, man.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm a big fan. I love that song, Richmond, North of Richmond. It's really good. And I want to cover it now. Just learn, not like put out a video. I just want to learn how to play it. It'd be really fun. But I'll wrap it up there. Next segment is coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out. And
yeah, this is just really funny. The left just hates him because they're like, oh, you hate taxes and all this stuff. And just what most people just in general, most normal people don't like. They're like, oh, you must be on the right if you don't like this stuff. It's so tribal now. It's insane. You can't, in like that article was saying, hey, the left isn't for the working man anymore. No, they haven't been for a long time. And were they ever even with unions? Like I said, are unions good for the working man? Not really. I mean, wouldn't it be ideal if you had an environment where you could go just start your own company where you wouldn't have to worry about unionizing? And then you unionize and then you're getting paid as the same as your coworker, no matter who puts in more work. If I put in 16 hours a day or they put in 12, they're going to get paid just as much, or 8 versus 16. If I'm grinding, if it's not like a commission based and I just really want the best for the company, and it's salary, you get paid the same. Or if your skills are the same, like let's say you both work 8 hours a day, but you're better at your job. Like let's say you're doing coding, okay? You do coding, and then you can go and get 10 pages done of coding in an hour, and then they can only get done 5. But if it's union, you're getting paid the same amount. So it's like, no, why wouldn't I pay me more? I want to get paid more. I'm better at my job. No, you can't because there's a union. So that's what I don't like. It's like collective bargaining. That's always my argument against it. I'd rather work hard. I'd rather negotiate on my own. And then if it's just like, if I don't want healthcare benefits or whatever, because I'm not going to use them or whatever, I think they're too expensive, just give me more money. I don't need days off, stuff like that. I don't need paid vacation. Or, well, I mean, if it's paid, it's paid. I mean, take it. But you don't need sick days or something, pay me more. Just because that goes into your salary one way or another. And if you want the benefits or whatever, yeah, more power to you. I'm just giving an example of what you can negotiate. But as a union, no, whatever the majority wants. I don't care about benefits or whatever. No, you have to take them, and you don't get a choice. You can't negotiate to get paid more because that's what the union says, and you're part of the union. So yeah, that's not good for people, in my opinion. But the left thinks it is, and they're always like, oh, well, we're for the working guy because we like unions. But then you want higher taxes. You want more regulation, so they can't even go and make their own business. They're stuck with this company that's already established. So was that ever really for the working person? And now it's just went so out of control. They're not for the working man at all. Yeah, they're just all establishment. They want everyone to fall in line. They don't even seem like everyone that they're like people, like rural people. They just like call them Trump supporters and talk trash about them. So yeah, I would say the left is definitely not for the working man anymore. That's for sure. But with that, let's move on to the next story. Biden laughs off requests for bank records as he faces impeachment threat. Here's a clip.
Let's talk a little bit about what's going on. There are House Republicans who want to start an impeachment inquiry of President Biden and his family. Kevin McCarthy has suggested that they're going to try to get the bank records for the Bidens, although there's no suggestion that particular request has happened yet. And there you can see Joe Biden, he's tight-lipped about this topic in particular. Yesterday,
you can see his teeth a little on the bottom.
You can a little bit, but he's tight-lipped right there again.
Okay, that's true.
Yesterday, he was at FEMA headquarters talking about the response to the hurricane. And there were reporters traveling in the pool, and they did ask him about different things, like President Xi and the government shutdown and Mitch McConnell's health. But when it came to the question regarding bank records and the Biden family, how did he react? Let's see. Roll the tape.
President Biden, Speaker McCarthy, will you give your bank records to Congress?
Let's talk about why I'm here.
Will you give your bank records to Speaker McCarthy request?
Yeah, he laughed it off. It's interesting when all this stuff started coming out about the corruption. My husband, who was in Congress for 10 years, kept saying, this is very easy. These are forensic, financial investigations. It's really easy. The data is there. Just follow the trail. And you can see that wherever the whistleblowers were trying to go down these trails, they were told they couldn't. If it involved Joe Biden, they were blocked from going down. That's what they reported. And now you see that, it's going to take an impeachment threat in order for Joe Biden to turn over those records. And we still don't even know if he'll do it.
Think about this and contrast it with the taxes with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's taxes had nothing to do with running for president. And they just tried and got the taxes after he left off. All they would try to do is get his taxes. What we're trying to find out is nothing personal. We want to find out if during your time as vice president, maybe senator, if you were actually using your influence to make your family ridiculously rich. Now, we know millions of dollars went to Hunter, and he's now staying in somebody's garage that's blowing paint through a straw. So I'm not sure where the money went. But his attitude of laughing it off is not flying anymore. Remember, about 2 months ago, when asked, about a transaction, he goes, where's the money? Almost daring you. Go find the money. Well, they're finding a lot of money, and they're finding a lot of emails, and emails of $4 million here, $5 million here, Romania, Ukraine. the Moscow mayor, and you got China. It's all there. And I think one thing that Comer's done is especially smart. It's not going for taxes. They're going for the bank accounts. And now the bank accounts are showing, and these dummy bank accounts are showing transactions that are taking place, and they're getting closer and closer to finding out. The question is, are the Republicans all on board for an impeachment inquiry? Because they have very little margin for error.
They're in shell companies. I mean, I don't have a shell company.
Not dummy bank accounts, dummy companies.
Yeah, there's dummy companies. There's shell companies. There's these dummy accounts that he's talking about. It's very easy to find this out if the Bidens would cooperate, because if they're innocent.
Right.
And again, this isn't just about making their family members
If
rich.
they're
By the way,
innocent.
some of these companies are in the name of grandkids. It's really weird stuff, right? Things that don't happen in any of our normal families. But that said, it's not just that they're getting fabulously wealthy off of this. It's that Joe Biden now is the president of the United States, and he's doing business. He's had business, dirty deals and dirty money coming from companies and from countries from which we are enemies with, and of which there are a lot of implications for American policy. So he is potentially compromised. That is why this matters. It doesn't matter about Hunter Biden. What matters is Joe Biden. Is he compromised by the money he took? Did the money go to him?
Rachel, I think it does matter in this respect. If he's using his influence as vice president in order to do favors for his son's companies and his friends, and to think that his son's friend Devin Archer is going to see the Secretary of State, you see the communication between Anthony Blinken and Hunter. It seems like they're better friends than Joe Biden and Anthony Blinken are. And now you find that Eric Sherwin, who's got the money, is probably a few weeks away from testifying, and the thing ready to bring back Tony Bobulinski and tie it all together. So this is going to be really interesting to see what develops over there.
Right now the
keeps developing
debate
more and more.
in Congress is whether or not they have to have a vote to start the inquiry, because right now Kevin McCarthy does not have 218 votes to proceed with an impeachment inquiry, and that's a problem because there are a lot of Republicans who would like to see that done. At the same time, unless Kevin McCarthy is able to start that, there are going to be a number of hardline conservatives who are going to say, okay, you're not good at this job. We're coming after you. So essentially, by saying we're going to open an inquiry, it keeps a lot of the Republicans off his back for now. The big question is, there are a lot, because he doesn't have the 218 at this point, it's because, you know, I've talked to some members of Congress, and I was reading some news reports today. They say that while there's a lot of stuff out there, and there are bank records, and in fact, the Republicans also want the manifest from Air Force Two to see how many times Hunter got on the big jet.
At least 15.
There are a
15.
number of Republicans who say, I haven't seen any evidence yet that the former vice president, now president, broke the rules,
Because
broke the law.
Because the National Archives, by the way, which put trigger warnings on our founding documents, is holding on to emails or giving them over so heavily redacted
Only 5,000.
that they're meaningless. Exactly, over 5,000. Thank you, Brian. And so this whole thing it smells to high heaven. The question I have isn't
It doesn't
whether
look good.
The question I have isn't how many Republicans are on board for impeachment. My question is about the patriotism of Democrats who aren't interested in finding out if their own president is compromised.
Well, that's party
Yeah,
politics.
exactly.
That happens every year.
Yeah, but
Not with Trump.
sometimes things have to go above party politics. If your president is compromised by the communist Chinese government because his family took money
If that
and
is
he
provable,
took money,
if that's provable, that is big.
and that's why it's important that Joe Biden, who says he's innocent, just released 30
So the
years
Republicans
because it's so
just need
easy.
to make that case.
But that's why it's an inquiry, not an impeachment. They want to see, and that's what Nancy Pelosi did.
I'm Steve Doocy.
Yeah.
I'm Brian
This is
Kilmeade.
also dumb. Everyone knows he's guilty, right? I mean, all these emails that are coming out, everyone that doesn't want further investigation, you know it's political. They don't care. They're like, who cares if he committed crimes? He beat Trump. And that's what we needed him to do. He's the president now. It doesn't matter how bad stuff gets with the economy or with how it is in Maui and just all of this stuff, all these dumb laws, the border crisis. It doesn't matter. Well, he beat Trump. Well, he's bad and he's corrupt. Well, no, he isn't. No, that's just propaganda. It's funny how much the left projects. All the left-wing media, it's all a bunch of lies all the time. And then they're like, oh, no, right-wing media is just a bunch of lies. Maybe some of it is. I don't know. You know, Fox, I know, lies about some stuff, but generally they're trying to get to the bottom of a lot of this different stuff. And they're not the biggest fans of like Trump or anything either. You know, they want Ron DeSantis, right? They're like, meh on Trump. But at least they're trying to do like something decent, you know? But yeah, the left, they just ignore all this stuff. The right wouldn't ignore if Trump was actually corrupt and this stuff was actually legitimate that they're trying to get him for. People on the right would be like, oh yeah, no, we'll just move on to someone else. There's so many awesome people on the right. On the left, apparently, no. You know, they always say Gavin Newsom. People aren't going to vote for Gavin Newsom after what he did in California with the pandemic. Maybe if that wouldn't have happened, people would be like, eh. Then he goes around in these national tours and just lies about everything, saying that easy to look up and to debunk. So Gavin Newsom isn't going to make it either. And who do they have left if they don't have Gavin Newsom? Yeah, they don't have anyone. But with on the right, you got Vivek Ramaswamy. You do have DeSantis. If you like DeSantis, I used to like him, and then once he started campaigning, I was like, I kind of soured on him. You got Dave Smith, Rand Paul. You got a lot of really cool people that I think would make really good presidents on the right, but on the left, not so much. So they're just gonna, this guy that they do have, he actually got in there. He beat Trump, beat Trump in 2020. So now he's president. So they're like, no, we have to protect him because if he goes, who do we have left? And then it's going to look bad in the party. So they don't care how bad he is, how bad it looks. And they were saying that's always party politics. Now with Trump, he got elected and the establishment didn't want to help him at all. The first 2 years they had majority control. They didn't want to put anything through because they didn't like Trump. Said like, no. And then after, like, even now, like have like Brian Kemp's not even investigating Fani Willis when she's obviously corrupt and it's all a bunch of nonsense, which he's going after him for. It's making a precedent where you won't have attorney-client privilege. He's going after lawyers. She's going after election officials just because they talk to Trump's lawyers. What is she doing? But then Brian Kemp, the Republican governor of Georgia, he's like, no, I don't see any evidence that she's corrupt. It's like her whole case is the evidence that she's corrupt. But yeah, the Republicans, they're not going to play. People don't play party politics anymore. But on the left, that's definitely the case. But I agree, that's how it's been. But nowadays, the Republicans don't really seem like they're like that anymore. But let's move on to the next story. Former UFC champion slams Hawaiian politicians. Here's a clip.
Elon Musk is blaming a rift with his daughter on the progressive Los Angeles.
Pause that. Former UFC champion slams Hawaiian politicians. Here's a clip.
12,000 people have been displaced after the fires in Maui. With the land being burnt to a crisp, residents are suspicious of land grabs and
want to make sure my YouTube's clip's good, and I forgot to switch back. Sorry about that. Former UFC champion slams Hawaiian politicians. Here's a clip.
12,000 people have been displaced after the fires in Maui. With the land being burnt to a crisp, residents are suspicious of land grabs and vulture developers who we hear have been calling them trying to buy up their properties. They worry Maui will be built back in favor of rich vacationers and billionaire tech titans that have been grabbing up land all over Maui, and they'll be priced out. Hawaii Governor Josh Green issued an emergency proclamation on housing development 3 weeks before the fires that put a housing czar in charge of development. The community is suspicious of the governor. The governor says it's not my fault people are angry. They're just traumatized. But is the governor even listening? Earlier this week, he bailed out on a community meeting before even meeting with the community.
Wow.
Of course, people are traumatized, and we're in an era of mistrust, and I respect that. We have to build trust like with all things. So we'll be building back. We want everyone to know that we'll only build Lahaina back when the people of Lahaina tell us how they want to do it.
Well, Hawaii native and former UFC champ BJ Penn showed up at one of these community hearings and gave everybody a piece of his mind.
We come here to talk about something, and then you guys start fighting back with us. You work for us. You don't talk to your boss like that, right? Who talks to their boss like that? Shame. Shame is when you steal. Shame is when you do something behind everybody's back. Look at Josh Green, how weak man. What happened? I came inside. What? He got to go check his BevD's? What is going on? He only signs the bill to further his political career. So what is next? He let go for president. And that's what you guys look for. Oh, that's the guy I look up to. The guy who screws everybody over to get to the top. Come on. That's not what Hawaii is about. Aloha is the law.
Hawaii native and former MMA world champ BJ Penn joins me now. So, BJ, when you're at these meetings, and I salute you because that was a lot of passion and we needed to hear that. Do these politicians, are they actually arguing with the community?
You know, they actually do argue with the community. They really did forget. They really forgot what this was about. And you're a public servant. You're here to serve the people, you know, and I use the word waiter just, you know, as a servant, just trying to show them that that's why you're here. You're here for us. And I knew because I ran for governor and I knew that, you know, as soon as I get in, that would be my first words, at your service.
Public service. That's actually specifically
I
what
didn't know
the
you ran
title
for
is to be
governor.
a politician. So the governor, you heard him say on CNN that he'll rebuild, he'll build back better, to use the political jargon of the day, once he hears from Hawaiians what they want. Haven't you been telling him what you want?
Exactly. When he was first asked what was he going to do with Lahaina, he said, I don't want any foreigners coming in, so the state will take Lahaina. Never once did Josh Green say, I'm going to check with the people of Lahaina. They're in shock right now. They're in trauma. And after everybody gets ready, I really want to talk to them first. Before I do anything, I'll talk to the people of Lahaina. He never said that once.
So how is the community feeling right now? Describe the level of mistrust, trauma, outrage. Let us know.
I mean, it is, they say that this is a left, the state is very left, and it's that type of state, but I think everybody's starting to pick up real quick about what's going on, about the agenda, about, you know, the state wants to take over everything, and it's always been that way. Hawaii has always been a socialist, communist, you know, state, and it's time to get out of it. The people are in the position right now with the tax assessment, the assessment property tax. It's killing everybody. Everybody's going to have to leave. You got people who've been here for generations who will never move, yet somebody next to them will sell their house for $10 million, and now this guy has got to pay the tax on it. Everybody's going to be forced out unless we do something.
So people are taking advantage of the situation already. It's the highest tax state. Now there's a whole swath of land that there's no property on it. What have you seen and what have you heard that people are up to?
Well, it's obvious that they want to do that. And we brought up different things when we were at this last meeting, and never once did they say anything different. I think they're just in a hush-hush mode. And you know, they did this emergency proclamation, which canceled the sunshine law. So now you can't shine light on anything. They just want to keep everything secret. And now he has all these powers, you know. It's very disturbing what's going on.
So they seized power. They blacked out everything so the public can't see it. And they all have dollar signs in their eyes?
Huh.
I believe so. I believe so. And Lahaina's going to be the start. They probably want to set a precedence there, and then come to all the other places, you know. Me, I'm from Hilo, but I got no problem fighting these guys for any state, city, land, 1 acre, a quarter acre, whatever it is, 100 feet. We got to fight them. We can't stop. We got nothing else to do.
Well, you have a big heart, and tell everybody in the neighborhood that I love them, and you should just show up at every single community hearing and grab the mic. How about that?
You know, I might have to.
All right. Thank you, BJ.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. What an interesting clip. I didn't know BJ Penn ran for governor. I used to watch him, when I was younger. Yeah, when he's UFC champ. Go him. He's fighting for the people. And he's right. The governor, he should be fighting for the people and actually not be running from community events and all this type of stuff. That's just kind of like what the less MO is now. Like Biden runs away, won't answer questions, didn't go to Maui for 1 to 2 weeks, a long time, He just goes and hides in his basement, goes on vacation. People don't like this stuff. I'm glad people are waking up to this. Like BJ was just saying, it's been socialist and communist for so long. People are starting to wake up to all this stuff. So yeah, go and grab that mic, like he was saying, like go and every event and use it to run for governor and get rid of this stuff. Sunshine laws where they can't even come and ask and shed light on this stuff. Should just know right when that happens, corruption. Why would you not want to be able to talk about that type of stuff? I didn't really know how corrupt Hawaii was. That's why I wanted to cover this, because I thought this was really interesting. It's like this is what's happening in the aftermath of Hawaii, or the wildfires in Hawaii after all this stuff happened. They're just using it to their advantage. And the governor, again, is just running away like, oh, no, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. I don't want to talk about it. We'll talk when they're ready. Everyone's in trauma right now. I get it. Let's just wait. And then all of a sudden, oh, wait, we just signed this deal and raised the taxes and all this stuff. And now there's people are coming in. We did a resort. And yeah, and no one got to say in like anything. Yeah. And again, these sunshine laws, that's weird. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Best of luck to Hawaii, and hopefully you guys can get a better governor in the future. It's really messed up. But with that, let's move on to the next story. Elon Musk says U.S. school turned his daughter into a full-blown communist. Here's a clip.
Elon Musk is blaming a rift with his daughter on the progressive Los Angeles private school where he sent her. Musk claims the Crossroads School indoctrinated his daughter, turning her into a communist. She has reportedly cut ties with her billionaire dad. Musk says, quote, she went beyond socialism to being a full communist and thinking that anyone rich is evil. He adds, I've made many overtures, but she doesn't want to spend time with me. Musk's daughter is not the only notable alum of the Crossroads School in L.A. Stars like Jack Black, Maya Rudolph, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Jonah Hill also went there. Molly, it's interesting coming off the heels of our discussion about elementary school a moment ago, and now at the high school level, the conversations about indoctrination.
Yeah, honestly, the story just kind of makes me sad. When kids get older, high school, college, they go off, they get exposed to a lot of new ideas, and it's not shockingly unusual to have the liberal kid, the more conservative parents at home, and to see a rift. So this just kind of makes me sad. It's kind of an age-old tale in a sense. But the school itself,
send your kids to better schools, though.
Can reach an annual tuition of $50,000.
I mean, Elon Musk is so smart. He's the richest guy in the world, and he can't do enough research. No offense to the guy, it's his terrible habit, his daughter, but you can't do enough research to know that they're going to indoctrinate your daughter. Because the first thing when I saw this headline is like, why isn't he sending her to private school? Oh, it is a private school. It's just a super liberal one. Why didn't he in California? Why didn't he say he lives in Texas now? Why didn't he send her to school in Texas? See, I don't know. He has so many wives and stuff, and that's a problem too. He has like kids, a bunch of 9 kids or something with 3 wives. So you stay with the same woman, right? And then make sure you guys mesh together first. Because then what happens when you move to Texas with your new woman, and then you don't see your daughter very much, and she lives with the mom, and then she wants her to go to this private school, and she's not correcting her on this stuff that the teachers are saying, and why you're even sending her to this private school. But I guess it's California. But again, if she doesn't want to leave California because her mom lives there, and the mom doesn't want to leave California, then she's stuck there, and you're probably only going to get like super liberal schools, even if they're private, right, in California. So yeah, it's such a mess. But again, I'm sure he probably could have found something. He probably just thought it was a really good school. The daughter wanted to go there. He's like, okay, fine. I'll pay for it. Why not? But this is why not. It's ironic because who's even going to pay for her private school now if she's not going to talk to him? I'm sure he'll still pay for it, but if he didn't, you can't blame him. It's like, hey, you wanted to go to your private school, and now you're just talking trash about me because I'm rich, and that's the only reason why you even got to the school, to be able to go and get indoctrinated. Yeah, it's really interesting, but he can't even tell her any of this because, she won't talk to him. Yeah, terrible situation.
$1 a year. So the idea that at least reportedly, because we're talking about a book that is yet to be published here, a biography, if this is all completely accurate, if this is actually what's happening, then of course there'd be some irony in that. But we don't know, in a family dynamic like this, I don't know that we can assume that his perception of her reasoning between this rift is exactly accurate, but it's an age-old tale, and I just hate to see it happening.
Emily, in the book that she's mentioning, the author says more than anything in his
why you
life since the
homeschool.
infant death of his firstborn child, this rift with his daughter has really pained Elon Musk. It is sad because you only have one father, and she is refusing to talk to her own father. But as far as the schools, I mean, at this point, whether it's
She's a
private
teenager,
or
though.
public
She'll
or
probably
charter,
get over
you know,
it.
they can't put
But still
masks on the
sad.
kids anymore. They can't keep them at home. It's like all of a sudden these schools have just decided what's the next thing we can do to make sure that we take charge of kids. Like, what about the parents' voice in all of this? And I think that's what Elon Musk, the point is, that where is my voice? Where's my beliefs? Why is my daughter
You didn't have to
listening
send her there.
to them and not listening to me as a parent?
You shouldn't have sent her
and
there.
But he can't give
That
her
was the
guidance. She won't
voice.
speak to him. So it's sad, but the school's wrong. I think it's wrong for them to do this to those kids.
Yeah, you mentioned sort of the age-old tale. I see it as a two-pronged age-old tale as well. One of which is that one of the communism's, favorite playbook page is agitation and indoctrination in universities, in schools, and also that people who can follow it nowadays have the luxury of doing so. That's the whole point. These kids are born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and they have a luxury of turning their back on their father because their father's still alive. Anyone who doesn't have a father would give anything they own to have 1 minute back. I see this as a petulant, spoiled child, the result of that private school, the result of that woke community over there. I hope she gets some sense knocked into her and she apologizes to her father. What say you, Paul?
So let me talk directly to Elon here if he's watching. Elon, relax, she'll be back. All right? Because she can be
she's
a
a
communist all
teenager.
she wants, but you're the world's richest man, okay? So that communism is a mile wide and an inch thick, okay? Let her get a little bit old, let her get knocked around by the world a little bit, all of a sudden it's going to be, hey, Daddy, guess who it is? So that's coming, but I agree with you, Emily. This was, it's another failure of the schools because she's not learning what communism is. Let's take a very sort of empirical metric. Where has it worked, right? Where exactly has this thing happened? So you know what? If she feels so strongly, you can buy a one-way ticket to North Korea last I checked. So have fun.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe the communism didn't take either on all the alumni. So you have, according to the article, Kate Hudson is a Crossroads alumni. You have Gwyneth Paltrow, Crossroads alumni. These are women who co-founded massive companies. Gwyneth Paltrow, Goop, look at Kate Hudson, Fabletics, that kind of thing. So at least they don't hate rich
But
people.
aren't they
and
still
they're
on the
pretty good
left?
capitalists. So maybe there's hope yet. I don't know.
I gotta respect the tough love from Paul over here.
It's because I don't have kids. I'm not that tough.
Guys, stay with us. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily
Yeah, very interesting. Like I was saying, I feel bad for Elon about all this, but I mean, you can go research how to make the biggest rocket of all time, the size of a building, but you can't go research your daughter's school. It's the thing about Elon. I don't think he really spends that much time with his kids, and when he does, he's probably a good dad. Like he wants to spend time with his daughter. He's saying, but she just won't speak to him. But it's like you send her to this private school that all these celebrities went to and everything, and they're all on the left. They were just saying like Gwyneth Paltrow and stuff. Kate Hudson, they started their own companies, but they're still really far on the left. I don't know about Kate Hudson, but Gwyneth Paltrow, she's not even married, right? She isn't. She has kids now, I think, but Apple, I think she named one of them, but I don't think she has a guy in her life, so she didn't even stick with the dad. So yeah, they're not traditionalists. So they went to that school. They probably indoctrinated them to some extent too. It was just a long time ago. So their hope back then was just push people to the left. Gwyneth Paltrow, she's 50 or something now. So 40 years ago in the 90s, they're like, okay, let's just push them to the left. I heard that's what they wanted to do with Berkeley. The guy who started Berkeley, he's like, okay, I want to go. He was a leftist and it's social Marxist. And he's like, okay, I want to go and start a company or a college like that. I think it was Berkeley. It's in California. But I'm pretty sure it's Berkeley. And he's like, well, I'll go and indoctrinate all the kids. And then in 50 years, we'll make them all Marxists. And if you look at that, you have a bunch of people who graduated from Berkeley and similar colleges. And now they're on the board of all these other colleges. And then they choose who becomes a teacher. And it's just this effect where they started slow, but now full-blown Marxism, right? But like I was saying, Elon could have researched his school more, and he could have homeschooled his kid. I'm not saying he could, but he could have easily afforded a private tutor. In this wouldn't have happened. A lot of people are like, well, how do you get socializing for your kids? There's a million different ways. Put her in any type of extracurricular thing where the teacher's not so She's not involved or sitting there with 7 hours, 8 hours a day with a teacher just talking down on her and stuff. You go put her into dance class, they're probably not going to really be talking about politics. In schools nowadays, though, it couldn't be further from the truth. I heard one teacher, she was like, yeah, we should just not even teach like reading or math or anything for a few years. We just have to go talk about how it's important to accept people, critical race theory stuff. That's what she was saying. That's what these teachers want to do now. They think it's more important to be political activists and to shape these kids into being Marxist than they do about teaching them like what school is designed for, I guess, or traditionally supposed to be. You learn, math, reading, you learn how to write, you learn all this type of stuff. Not anymore. No, you got to learn how to be accepting and be, critical race theory stuff. Yeah, that's what you have to do. That's how you teach kids now. It's not actually teaching them the skills that they can do to have to really succeed in life, no matter what your political leanings are. No, we have to make sure we shape those political leanings. Everything else is secondary. That's what they think. So to send for the richest guy in the world to send her to the school when he could have just got a private tutor, it sucks. And I just don't think that's not coming, I guess. But at the other hand, he did have some say in it. Because that reporter was like, well, where's the parents' voice? Elon Musk in particular definitely had a voice. And he said, okay, I'm going to send you to this school. I don't know. She probably wanted to go there, but even still, he could have researched and be like, no. I am not paying for that. You're going to become a communist, and I feel about you. And you spend more time with your kids. I don't know how often Elon Musk spends with his kids, but I see him in interviews and stuff. He had this tiny house in Boca Chica, Texas, at Starbase. He had like this little tiny house there. I know his kids aren't living with him there. Instead of like buying a mansion 2 miles away so you can have your kids, no, I'm going to live in this tiny house. He slept in the Tesla factory some years back when he's trying to do this. Like, hey, your kids aren't with you there. So it's like if your daughter wanted to go to school, do some research, no, you're going to be a communist. I've told you about communism. It's bad. You're not going to that school. Find something better. So he could have done that, but I don't know. He didn't want to put in the effort, I guess. Not trying to be mean to the guy and say it's like his fault, but at the same time, like the guys are saying, he had a voice, and this is what he chose. Hopefully he can get her out of it and learns his lessons with his other kids, because he does have other young kids. Don't put them in private schools in California. Put them in private schools in Texas or homeschool them. Get a personal tutor. You can afford it. But with that, let's move on to the next story. Biden body double conspiracy erupts as plastic surgeon says Biden may be addicted to plastic surgery. Here's a clip.
It is about time that we exposed the Biden conspiracy.
Yeah.
If you watched Timcast IRL, you saw us talk about this a little bit. The Biden conspiracy. I love this stuff because it's just so silly. Basically, you have these old posts where they compare images of Biden a long time ago to images of Biden now. And they're like, he's different. Look at this. The C-SPAN tweet says he's a different guy. He looks different than he used to. And then you have this tweet from Trump where he says, smiled when he called Swamp Man Joe Biden a low IQ individual and worse. So the theory is this is a different guy. It's not Joe Biden. They swapped him out for some reason that, I'm sorry, just like makes no sense.
Yeah, why?
I got news for everybody. We're going to have to slow down there on this conspiracy theory and debunk it. Now, what does debunking truly mean? Does it mean we know for 100% that something is not true? No. It just means that, my friends, it's simple. Joe Biden got a whole bunch of nasty-ass plastic surgery and looks goofy. And that's it. You can explain it all. There's people saying that, like, his ear is now connected. Yeah, what were they calling it? That happens when you get a bad facelift and they peel your skin back.
Yeah.
All right, here's the story from the Daily Mail. Plastic surgeon claims Joe Biden has spent $100,000 on wrinkle filler, teeth whitening, and hair transplants. He's not wrong. I saw this image and I was like, oh, it's the Biden conspiracy again. Oh, wait. How to build a president. I just love this stuff. Hair filled in, Botox to fix the lines, skin pulled back for facelift, reduced lower eyelids. Jeez, eye bags removed. It's just so awful. There you go.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Good, different guy, huh? His nose looks mostly the same, but he maybe even got a nose job. The surgeon, who has never met or treated Mr. Biden, said if the president had undergone these procedures, He would have spent about 6 figures in today's rates on facial rejuvenation. Dr. Modeki has nearly 200,000 followers on Instagram, giving him considerable reach. The president is not the first public figure he has weighed in on. The surgeon has speculated on many celebrities' alleged cosmetic tweaks, including the reggaeton star Bad Bunny had his jaw surgically enhanced. Musician Adam Levine and actor Donald Glover had secret hair transplants, and actress Emily Blunt either had fillers or fat grafting done to make her face appear fuller and more heart-shaped. Huh. I'm sorry, man. I've never understood this. I just don't care. And, maybe to my own disadvantage, I suppose, if I got a bunch of plastic surgery done, maybe I'd get more views, but I literally don't care. I got like a blemish on my face. My teeth are crooked. I have no hair. To be fair, though, guys, if you look at like when I was in that show, 1,000 Ways to Die, and my old skate videos, I always wore the beanie. It's just like a fashion thing. I don't know. And now it's part of the brand. It is what it is. But I would never consider getting any kind of like cosmetic surgery. I don't understand what people do. No matter who you are, I just don't get it. It's weird to me. Whatever. Joe Biden clearly got a ton of plastic surgery. That's it. That explains the Biden-Biden thing. They're like, he looks so different. Yeah, the dude got a bunch of crazy plastic surgery. Look at this. Look how nasty he looks. He's an old man. But I ain't got no beef with people looking old and being old. In fact, I think people who age and naturally look old look better than people who get plastic surgery.
Yeah,
but
so
there's your
dyeing your hair
there.
fine, but plastic
Biden
surgery
is just Joe Biden after a ton of plastic surgery. Look at this. Is Biden addicted to plastic surgery? Addicted. I love that. At this point, I doubt the dude is actually getting a bunch of plastic surgery, but I think this guy's completely right about him having gotten it. He says,
"Yep,
he has the same look to the upper brow and upper eyes, where there's an unnatural appearance to the lines. If you look at his brow line on the side, normally they would come like this and come down slightly, but on him we see they're turned up and going this way, and drew an invisible line with his finger from the corner of his eye past his temple. Dr. Am I pronouncing it right? Modeki? Then highlighted a black and white photo of a young Biden taken between 30 to 50 years old next to a recent photo, both close-ups of his left cheek to show taut, smooth skin from the corner of his mouth to his ear, where it looks like at some point he had a facelift. It's just so nasty. All of it. I just say no to all of it.
Yeah, definitely.
He had that throughout the years. Mr. Biden has probably done touch-ups with Botox and fillers, but overall, I think he had a significant amount of plastic surgery throughout the year.
It doesn't like make you look better if you get plastic surgery. It just makes you look fake. It's not like you're like, okay, oh, look at this person looks young again or something. No, you just like look old, but weird. You look like a weird old person. I don't get it either.
I love that meme where it's like, imagine going back 30 years and telling people that at one point Roseanne would be more attractive than Madonna. And it's funny because Madonna got a bunch of crazy plastic surgery, which makes her look weird and shocking to the average person. And Roseanne just looks to have aged normally and gracefully, so she appears to be an older woman.
Yeah,
and there's this thing about it. Maybe prettier or more attractive. I don't know what the right word is. Looks better.
Looks normal.
I would not say that, like, in my view, I find elderly people attractive.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just don't.
I don't either.
People closer to my own age, as most people are. But it is fair to say, you can look at a person and say they are ugly or not. And that's entirely
weird
the point.
looking.
Madonna looks off-putting. I'm trying to be very nice. The surgery does not play well. She is weird looking and it is off-putting. And I mean that not to be mean, but come on,
it's just
man.
true.
You're in your 60s. You don't get that crazy surgery. And Roseanne looks like a normal woman. So she looks substantially better. Sorry, that's just the truth.
That's
Joe
how it
Biden,
is.
he looks goofy. He's always looked goofy. Everybody knows he looks goofy. It is what it is.
Yep.
This guy getting all that plastic surgery. Last month, Republican Congressman Greg Murphy from North Carolina said Mr. Biden had undergone so much plastic surgery and has so much filler. 4 years ago, several plastic surgeons insisted the president spruced himself up with cosmetic procedures before launching his 2020 campaign. Do you know why Joe Biden was calling a lid and campaigning from the basement? I'd say it's a combination of things. One, the dude's tired. He also probably got a bunch of plastic surgery, and so he just would stay in while recovering. Not to mention all sorts of rejuvenation stuff, which is just so creepy.
Can you imagine you're that old, and then your brain's already breaking, and then what are you gonna do? You're gonna go have to go get put out and go under the knife just to a facelift. People don't care if you look old, bro. Like, Trump looks pretty old. Nobody cares.
There was that photo where he had the IV marks on his hand. I'm willing to bet Joe Biden gets NAD. NAD boost, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, IV drip. You may have heard Joe Rogan talk about it.
The B12
Look, man,
drip.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was doing all sorts of crazy rejuvenation stuff and on a whole bunch of uppers, as well as getting plastic surgery. The dude needs to retire. Then, of course, we can talk about Mitch McConnell and his brain shattering.
Yeah.
We got too many old people in politics.
He
right?
needs to go.
I suppose I could just talk about this because it kind of brings up the same point. This was brutal. You guys saw the video where Mitch McConnell just
I
freezes
covered
up?
this yesterday.
I want to
It's
highlight
nuts.
something in this, and we'll just talk about
2010.
Did it?
2012.
Oh, come on, go back. There we go.
Okay.
Look at this. You see him gripping the side of the podium as he sways back and forth. He's not speaking. They're coming up to him and they're like, "Did you hear the question?" He's like, "Yes." And then he just doesn't say anything. Look, man.
Go
Between
rest.
Biden needing to get all this crazy surgery.
Like
between
I was saying about like Mitch McConnell in particular, and Joe Biden's with his family, but Mitch McConnell, you're going and doing all these events and everything. Go spend time with your family, retire, go relax when you have time left. Because when you're starting to do that, he's like 80. I think Mitch McConnell 80, 81 or something. Yeah, you get that old, when you just want to just retire and just rest. Why does he want to just keep clinging on to power like this when he's clearly not healthy? And then like the health of his doctors, like, oh, he's cleared to go back to work. Well, he's not a UFC fighter. Obviously, they're going to clear him to go back to work. I mean, what does he do? But considering how much power this guy has over the people, and then he just wants to keep that power instead of just going and retiring, to me, it's insane. That power is just that important to you. Like, again, you're that unhealthy. It's obvious when you want to go spend time with your family, and your family would probably want to spend time with you instead of you going into some speaking event. It's really interesting, but that's what they do. But again, they should both retire. A lot of these people, Dianne Feinstein, Fetterman, why he's in. I don't get people on the left. They're so unhealthy and they just keep running. It's interesting.
McConnell having micro seizures or whatever it is people want to call them.
Wow.
We got way too many old people in political office. And I don't know what the answer is because they're desperately clinging to power like some kind of...
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't know, barnacle latched to the bottom of the ship of this country, and we're trying to scrape them off, but they won't go away.
Right.
To be fair, it's partly our fault because we keep voting for these people.
I'm not voting for these people.
By all means. Criticize Donald Trump, call him old. He is. And I prefer somebody else. This is one of the reasons why I was supporting DeSantis a year ago, but man, DeSantis' campaign is really...
He messed it up.
Wow. Fallen. And where we're at right now is... people just keep voting for everybody. To be fair, Donald Trump is a bit more spry than Joe Biden. And,
age doesn't matter.
There's a video of him playing golf.
I don't think age matters. It doesn't. If you're 80 and you, like Dolly Parton, great example. I don't think she's 80. I think she's in her 70s. She looks fantastic. She looks awesome. So it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, if you're healthy and you're good. I mean, eventually with, more technology that's coming out with like supplements, NMN, stuff like that, people are going to get older. People are like, we should make a law so you can't go and run for president after your 80s or old. I don't agree at all. I think it's up to the people in general. If they think if you're 80, and that's going to, that no pun intended, but that law will not age well, because in 100 years when people are, I mean, look at the life expectancy from 100 years ago. What was it like? What I just saw in the Social Security video that I did about how welfare is like ruining, the entitlements are ruining the U.S. economy. Go check it out. Highly recommend it. But in that video, they were talking about how when they first started Social Security, life expectancy is like 55. Now it's up to like 79, like 80 years later. So in another 80 years, it's going to go the same way. So if you're healthy and you're 80, I don't have a problem with it. But when you're 80 and you're on your last leg, if you're 50, like Fetterman, he's in his 40s, right? 40s, 50s, and he's on his last leg. Well, maybe not literally, but he can't even hear people talk. He has to get an interpreter and all this stuff. It's all muffled. It sounds like Charlie Brown in his head, the Charlie Brown teacher. That's insane. 40s, 50s, whatever. You shouldn't be in Congress if you have that bit. You have that much power of people's lives, especially two senators from Pennsylvania, and he's one of them. He can't even hear people speak. And if you listen to him give speeches, it's just all jumbled. He sounds like Joe Biden. So even in your 40s, you can get messed up. You know, it's sad but true. 40s, 50, I don't know. He must be 60 at the very oldest. I don't even think he's that old, though. I think he's 40s, 50s. So, yeah, if you have that, you shouldn't be in here either, regardless of your age. It's more of the condition of you, right? That, in my opinion.
Like throws a ball in the air and catches it. And it's like, for a portly fellow like him who eats lots of McDonald's, he seems to be doing a lot better than Joe Biden.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
A bunch of these other guys. Mitch McConnell. Granted, McConnell's got like 10 years on. Actually, no, he's 81. Really? McConnell's 80?
Yeah, I thought he was
Trump's
81,
like
yeah.
almost 80. Compare Mitch McConnell to Trump, and it's kind of nuts. I don't know what Trump is doing, but Trump seems to be,
golf.
Despite not being in good shape.
Golf is deceptive. So the last place I lived, they had a golf simulator. And I was like, okay, golf. And my friend, he was into golf. He's into golf. So we went and used the golf simulator. And I started hitting that ball. Man, if you're hitting it and then grabbing it because it's a golf simulator, you don't have to wait. You hit it. You're just taking all of your body and it's like a haymaker. It's like a haymaker into the ball. And you're just doing that back. Man, it gets tiring quicker than you would think. You're just throwing it all your weight into that. And Trump's been playing golf his whole adult life, right? So I think that's what it does. That when I tried golf, I was like, this is how Trump, despite eating like garbage, all this McDonald's and all this stuff that he talks about, Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke, drink water, bro. Just need water. Put some lemon in it. But him doing all this stuff, it's just like, that's how he probably stays in, just so like his body's just, you know, it's good. He's in shape because of that. He's just swinging that golf club all the time, hitting that ball as hard as he can. You know, it probably puts him. I think that's how he's in such good shape.
In better shape than many of these other guys. Look, even Joe Biden falling up the stairs several times. It's just weird. I don't know, man. A lot of people have talked about upper age limits for Congress, and perhaps that's the answer.
I don't think so.
But then what? Like you get a Ron Paul, and maybe it's 80. You know, we had Ron Paul on Timcast IRL several months ago, and it was an honor and a privilege. But to be fair, Ron is clearly not where he used to be. He has a harder time hearing. He's a lot older, and so
that's
what it is.
He bikes
People
a lot.
get old.
Bicycle.
It would have been awesome to have sat down with Dr. Paul when he was in his prime, or even at least into his 50s or so. But he's an older fellow now. And so I can recognize that even though I would love to have Ron Paul in office forever, sometimes people get too old. We're fortunate enough that there is a progeny of Ron Paul and Rand Paul, who does a great job as well. We're big fans, questioning Fauci and all the things he's done. But I don't know, man. Maybe what we're seeing is we need age limits or something.
I don't think we need age limits.
I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tonight.
Yeah, I don't think age limits. It's just if you're healthy, you're healthy. And like I just brought up Fetterman. He's in his 40s and he's unhealthy. He shouldn't be there. If you're unhealthy, it's crazy people vote for these people. And again, it's like all people. I want to say all. I mean, Mitch McConnell's there. But Mitch McConnell essentially is on the left anyways, right? Is he? I mean, come on. He's not for Trump. Wasn't he like a never Trumper? He kind of pretended he was on Trump's side when he was president. But was he really? I don't think so. So, it's all these type of people, these establishments or leftist people that they're so unhealthy and people just elect them. Why? I don't get it. I mean, I get it. You want your guy to win to some extent, but wouldn't he be more likely to win if he was like spry and not sick? But they just go and elect a sick guy. Why did Fetterman even win the primary? Well, he wasn't so sick then, but I think he was kind of sick. And then it's just like he breaks. It's like go replace him with another guy on the left. It's like Joe Biden. Go find someone else that is actually like not, falling apart. But I don't know. They don't think they're going to win, I guess. It's very interesting. But with that, let's move on to the next and final story. Biden proposes airports around the United States to house migrants. This is crazy. Here's a clip.
The White House has some suggestions for where New York City can house some of the 60,000 asylum seekers that recently arrived. New Jersey, the Atlantic City International Airport is reportedly one of 11 sites that the Biden administration has
a Tom Hanks movie.
Be used as a potential shelter for illegal migrants. The airport is in New Jersey, and Congressman Jeff Van Drew, it's in his district, and he joins us now. Congressman, so my understanding, first of all, welcome, and my understanding is that this airport is in a very rural farm town. What do you make of that? What are you hearing from the constituents that live there about their ability to, provide resources for this kind of an influx?
They can't provide the resources.
Yeah.
This is a town of 50,000 people. Atlantic County can't do it.
Yeah, and they
This
want
town
them to
can't do
pay for it, I bet.
should
The
have
feds
never
probably aren't
happened.
helping.
Hopefully it won't happen. We're going to fight this with every ounce of strength that we have. It is the wrong thing. When we said what was happening at the southern border was going to affect the entire United States of America, this is what happens. It's
Exactly.
not just, I want people that are listening out there, this is not just an Arizona problem or a Texas problem or a California problem. This is a United States of America problem. And now they want to come into our beautiful county, our beautiful South Jersey, and try to ruin that as well. There's also a national defense issue here. This is a very, very important issue to understand. We have the FAA Technical Center there, who's doing very important work, some of it which is very significant for the safety of this country in air flight. And we have our F-16s that are there as part of our defense as well, as part of the Air National Guard, 177 Fighter Wing. They are the first line of defense for Washington, D.C. and New York City. This is a disaster in the making. This is the worst administration.
That's
I
awful.
used to say in my lifetime, no, this is the worst administration in the history of the United States.
I
of
think
America.
there's a couple of worse
No,
ones.
Congress-
Woodrow
and yet you
Wilson
see-
comes to
Congressman,
mind,
you see
but
that
he's
the
really bad.
Mayor of New York, the governor of New York, their solution is give us more money, and we'll find more places to put these people. And they're working with the administration to do that. It just doesn't make sense. If you have this many people that you can't house, that you don't have enough money to do it, and that you're willing to even put it in places that you say could, compromise our national security, the answer is to go to the border and seal it and shut it down.
Pretty obvious.
It's so obvious. Literally, an elementary school child could understand.
So why are they
In order
doing
to
it?
have a-
Why are they leaving the border open? I mean, you were a Democrat. Explain to those of us with common sense, why are they allowing this to happen?
It's purposeful, it's destructive, and it's corrupt.
They think they're
going to
get votes from
The
it.
social structure.
I think it's
of the
backfiring.
United States of America. It's literally self-destructive. I've never seen anything like it. That's why we need an impeachment inquiry. It's just another reason. You don't want to do the impeachment yet. At least do the impeachment inquiry, because in my committee, we would allow us to go forward and to have more powers for subpoena, to allow us to have more powers to investigate. We need to know every single thing that's going on. This is not a mistake. It's not an accident. It is purposeful, and it's harmful, and it's the wrong thing to do. And he's not fulfilling his obligation.
I think they
as
think
the
that
president of the United States. And you know what? We don't want to be a sanctuary airport. If they want to be a sanctuary city,
I think they think that the leftists are going to vote for him because everyone's like with the Trump thing when he was like, they're not sending us their best people. Ever since then, that comment, the media just ran with it. And I think now, people, they think everyone on the left is like, oh, no, yeah, no, don't build the wall. That's a Trump thing. But then when you actually see it in your cities, it's terrible. So I think it's backfiring. But I think that's what they thought. They're like, oh, we're going to have an open border. And a lot of people say they're going to give them citizenship eventually, the migrants, to get votes. If they think that, they're dumb also, because a lot of these migrants might just vote Republican, And so, I mean, either way, it's bad. But I think it's more of a thing really quickly. No, people on the left, they like asylum seekers, as they call them. They want asylum, so we need to help them out. But then you go and see, in reality, like I've said in other videos just today, even the black community in New York and Chicago in particular. I saw this guy in Chicago a few months back at a city council meeting. He had a build the wall sign, and I don't know if he's a Trump supporter, but it was a black community and stuff. And now they're turning on them. So I think what they thought was, okay, we're going to bring all these people in and it's going to make the left like us more. But now it's just backfiring and everyone's turning on them. Like this guy used to be a Democrat. I think he changed before Biden even got into office. But you could tell even before Biden got into office, people on the left were like, okay, I'm changing. Sinema in Arizona, the senator there, Kirsten Sinema, she went independent. She still caucuses with the left, but she's like, I can't win as a Democrat anymore because this is their policy, especially in Arizona, right by the border. All this stuff there that they have to deal with there, and then what we have to deal with in Texas. It's like it's insane. So I think they're like, okay, we're gonna do this. It is purposeful, 100%, but I think they thought that leftists would like it, and leftists did actually for like 2 or 3 years. Most people are like, oh no, it's fine. But then when it's literally on their doorstep, they're like, no, we can't have this. All of the city's money is going to fund migrants, and they can't even fund them, like any fixing roads. They can't fix any of the infrastructure, period, in the city. So it's just going downhill. And what's it all going to? Migrants. So it's like, okay, I changed my mind. And the migrants, it's not like it's better off for them. The kids get sold into indentured servitude. And then they're sleeping on the streets. They're all sleeping on sidewalks. They have to go trudge through the hottest year on record. That's what they're doing, hundreds of miles, right? And they're bringing these kids in that probably aren't even their kids. So it's like it's not even working out for the migrants either. So what I always say, they should stay in their own country and go and fix that. I mean, if your country's so bad that you need to leave, I get it. If maybe there is maybe if there's a dictator like going crazy. But I don't. First of all, from what I understand, that's not really the case. The gangs like prop up the dictator, so they get going. You got to solve that. You got to go into your own country and solve that. I think it's fascinating that almost all of the migrants that are coming in are Venezuelans. So basically, no offense to them, but they voted for this president that turned everything socialist. They voted for all of this, and now they want to come and run away to here, the place that's not socialist. Like, why don't you stay in your own country and change it back from socialism back to a more capitalistic model where you're running to anyways, which is a capitalist society? Stay there, and I bet you they weren't sleeping on the streets. I bet you it wasn't great. From what I understand about Venezuela, especially a few years ago, it was awful. I think it's kind of tapered down. I don't really hear about it anymore, so I'm guessing it tapered down. But I get it. It sucks there. It's not fun, but if America turns to trash, I'm not one of those people who are like, I'm going to go move to another place. America, no matter what happens, is the best place in the world. So I get it. They want to go there. But their country for them was probably awesome too. And then you just see how these leftist policies change everything. You get Biden in here. Now the economy's trash. It was amazing a few years ago. People vote for this stuff, and then they want to go and run away after it gets bad. No, stick with it. Stay there. It's awful, but you voted for it, and you got him in there in the first place. You could probably get him out. And stay with your home country. You gotta have some patriotism, right? Stick with it and solve it. And those policies, if you come here and are going to be voting for the same thing, it's just going to turn it to Venezuela. It's really interesting.
In New York City, that's up to them. It's hurting the city tremendously, too.
At $10 billion
I really
a year.
Appreciate your candor on all of these questions. Thank you. It's really important. God bless.
Yeah, definitely important. Yeah, it's crazy. Now they're trying to send them to airports. I think I saw like 15 airports or something. They want to go put these migrants in. So now they went from their country to go either live on the street, can't get jobs, don't know English. They don't even. I saw a story. I covered it before yesterday or today. Can't remember the exact one, but they mentioned this in. But 75% of people that go, the asylum seekers, they take 3 years to get a hearing, and then 75% of the people when they get the hearing, they're denied asylumship. So they're just sitting here for 3 years, costing Texas money, Arizona money, California, all of this. New York, $10 billion a year for 50,000 migrants, $100,000 per family. That's insane. A normal family in America, what pays half that? So they're just paying double what a normal family would be, and then the migrants can't even work, so the Americans are paying for it. And I just don't see how it's helping anybody when the left is like, well, we need to help these people. How is this helping them? It's going to be 50,000 people in New York alone. Away in Chicago, there's like the same amount. There's so many people in these cities. It's record heat, crazy hot, and then they have to trek through all this, and they're encouraging them to do this. And then once they get here, now they're gonna winter's a few months away, so now they're gonna be living. And it's terrifying because these people from these warmer regions, they're not used to the cold. They're not adjusted to it. They haven't been. Their genes haven't been. Their ancestors haven't been acclimated to this. So now they're going to be sitting here in the frigid cold of Chicago in winter, and no one can pay for it because these leftists thought it was a good talking point to get reelected, to be like, oh, no, come here. We need to help these asylum seekers. Asylum, maybe you could say like Afghanistan, like Ukraine, could have asylum. But most of these countries, they're just not as good as the U.S., to be frank. But there's nothing really happening there. They're just not as good as the U.S. So, yeah. But then they go and be like, okay, we're going to go there for a better life, and you have a terrible life. It's way worse. You have to go trek through all this heat. You have to do all this crazy stuff to get here, and then you don't even get citizenship in 3 years. You don't even get the asylum claim, and you have to go back to your home country anyways. And what did you spend that 3 years doing? You couldn't even legally get a job, so you probably didn't really make that much money. Maybe you made a bit, but they pay the illegal migrants like $2 to $3 an hour, right? They probably are making the same in their home countries. Maybe a little bit less, but at least you have a shelter. You're not just going day to day wondering if you're going to get kicked out or whatever. And you're not sleeping outside. And a lot of these people sleep on the sidewalks, sleeping on concrete on the sidewalks. I'm guessing it's better off in their country. People give you food, but what happens when all the money runs out? Then they're not going to get food either, and they're probably just going to want to go back to their home country anyways. It's all just a waste of time. Because of some rhetoric of the left that's saying, "Oh no, come here. We will help you. We'll help you. We'll help you. We can't afford it. We can't even come close to affording it." Even AOC is turning on Biden. Now she's saying that there's a border crisis. So it's gotten so bad at her district, she even has to say it. And they took a really nice hotel. I don't remember the name of it, but I covered it like a couple months ago. They took the whole hotel and are paying to double the price, I believe, of the normal price that they would normally pay. And it's just filled with migrants, and it's horrific. The people that work there, they still kept the same staff. They would find kids in their rooms, like 8 to 10-year-old kids, and they're doing like drugs and drinking alcohol, and they're sitting there by themselves with the door open, but they legally couldn't do anything about it. So they had to quit, and it was dangerous. They were saying that someone would do like a violent crime, like assault their wife or something, and then they would just go and they'd get kicked out, and then they would just find them another hotel to go live in. This is all just a disaster. You could just been like, defend the border. You can't come in. You can only come in legally. Then there wouldn't be all this disaster. They would be better off because they wouldn't be sleeping on the street. They're not going to be sleeping in the street in a few months of winter like now that they're here. What did they even gain from coming here? Just hardship and just nonsense, and they can't get jobs, and I think they're worse off. Everyone's worse off. And then just to try to keep them alive, they can't work on their own where they could have afforded their own food in their own country, just working a normal job. Now they came here. They can't even afford food. They can't get jobs. They have to sleep on the street. And then Americans have to pay for all of it. Double the price of a normal family, $100,000 a year in New York versus what, 50, 60,000 average income for a United States family, right? So, yeah, it's insane. It's insane. It's all broken. And now, again, airports. Yeah, go live in airports now when airports are already super crowded. And whether you think they're realistically going to be able to find space for them in airports, give me a break. It just keeps getting worse. But, like I said before, I think this is backfiring on the left. I think it's just going to make more people go to the right because they see these failed policies. So, yeah, hopefully that's a good thing that comes out of it. Like, people will learn from it. Like, okay, we did try this. We tried, like, not quite socialism, but far leftism, and it doesn't work. It just makes everything worse for everyone involved. Let's hope so. But the left right now, they're just kind of the hardcore, staunch leftists. They don't want that. Some people on the left just won't budge. Yeah, people in the certain communities that are probably mainly in the center, but they just think they because of their community have to vote on the left. Those people change, but the Krasinski's and stuff, the Twitter people, like all the like the journalists that are on the left that are getting paid $100,000 to $200,000 a year. I heard this one guy is getting my hair cut at a local place here in Austin, and this guy, he was from the Bay Area, and he's telling the person cutting his hair, he's like, oh yeah, I've lived in San Francisco my whole life. Maybe he's like 30-ish, and he's like, yeah, it's really changed since when I was a kid. And then she's like, oh, what do you mean? He's just like, everyone is just so elitist now. So like that. I'm like, all of the problems with San Francisco, and that's what his problem is with it. Everyone's elitist, and there's a bunch of rich people there now. That's the only thing keeping the city somewhat okay, right? But that's what he thinks is the problem. That guy probably isn't going to go anywhere, probably no matter what. It's crazy. But I will leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. Definitely appreciate it. Late night show. Goal is to be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. I know I'm like a broken record, but again, I've been under the weather for like 4 days. I overworked trying to get on that schedule. I got like no sleep for 2 days straight, and I just worked literally all day. I've intermittent fasting. I've been doing that for like a year, but I usually eat lunch and dinner. Yeah, a couple of those 2 days, I didn't even eat lunch, so I didn't get enough food, and it kind of got me a little sick. I'm not too bad, but when I first get up, I do not feel very good. I'm just like, oh, this isn't good. But by this time, I'm up for like 12 hours or whatever, and I'm more or less good. But then I wake up and it's all over again. But I think I'm getting better. So hopefully, I could get to that 2 p.m. schedule and do that every day. And then I'm going to be doing clips throughout the rest of the day. Should be pretty awesome. But I definitely appreciate you guys joining me for this late night edition. Remember, try to get on that 2 p.m. We're all going to get there. You guys watching, me. I know it's quite different of a time. I am thinking about doing another show, the late night on Friday and Saturday. I think that'd be fun. But, we'll see. This takes a lot of work. But I'm slowly getting more used to it, finding out techniques about how to break up the clips, doing them like just do one activity all at once and then do the next and then do the next versus like video, all the tasks for one video, all the tasks for the next video. Just, cut up the clip, all the clips at once, and then do the thumbnails and a whole different thing, and then get the description and the title and another thing. Just bang them all out like that. Versus like doing a video, thumbnail, then the description, and then posting it, and then doing it all again. It seems like it's easier just to go bang, 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 bang in one task. So I'm getting better at that. So hopefully in the long run, we'll get there. 2 p.m. Yep. I'm excited. Keeps getting better. I think I'm getting better at this day in and day out. I love that I switched to the live format. It's just way easier to do all this. It's way more efficient. Before, I would take like 2 to 3 hours to go put together a video. And now I can just go in 3 hours, have 3 hours of content. Yeah, I have to go take a few 3-4 hours to break all that up and schedule it. But now I got 10 videos a day versus, 3 or 4. So that is definitely awesome. But yep, I think that's it. I'll just keep talking. I think I'm going to go for the night. I definitely appreciate it. I will catch you in the next one. Thanks again for joining me. Peace out.